I'm Doug Jones, and you have discovered Beyond Trek Podcast.
Red alert.
Okay, cool. So we got to see Trill this episode.
Yeah, we haven't seen Trill since.
Have we ever seen Trill?
Right. We did get to see Trill.
It was
Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
Lives of Dax. No, there was a time where we go to the caves of Makawab in that episode too.
Yeah, that was.
I am obsessed with Trill now, but we can get into that.
Right. Yeah, definitely want to get into that, and that they're going more into the Trill. I mean, we had learned a lot about their society in DS9, but now we're getting more into the meat of the host and symbiont relationship, and what that looks like on their homeworld. But before we do that, I guess we should do some introductions. I know I'm Big J. Who are the rest of all of you?
I'm Dag.
I'm Watney.
I'm Renzo.
Oh, we did good that time. I think that goes down the record as a uninterrupted. Watney's got a tally. Good intros, bad intros.
A tally, and there's one mark on it.
Welcome back, Watney. You've been gone a couple weeks.
Thank you. Yeah, I have been gone. Got remodeling my house, doing all sorts of fun stuff with work. But yeah, thanks for giving me some space, co-host, and I'm back.
We missed you.
Ready to fucking talk about some Discovery.
Yes. Watney's fresh.
So that segs right into this warning. Viewers, listeners, we are going to spoil the heck out of this episode. So if you haven't seen it yet, too bad. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
And we'll probably be spoiling some old episodes too, some Deep Space Nine episodes and other things too.
Yeah, if the episode's more than 20 years old, it's going to be spoiled. Sorry. More like if the episode's more than 3 weeks old, it's going to be spoiled.
Yeah, right. But you know, if you've just seen Discovery, probably fine too. Ready? Let's get going.
Yeah,
I'm excited to talk about it. So, season 3, episode 4, right?
Yes.
What's the name of this episode?
Forget Me Not.
Forget Me Not.
You forgot the name of the episode. Forget Me Not.
Very ironic.
Good joke. It was good.
We love it. Yeah, totally a joke, planned, everything. So this is a very, so just to give you listeners some context, I binged Discovery the last 3 weeks in preparation for our episode reviews. Like I hadn't actually seen it, and I think it's like meant to be binged because it was getting like a lot of hate like early on, episode by episode, but like I honestly loved it. I had so much fun season 1, season 2. So I was really excited to, like, the end of season 2 was insane for me. I was like at the edge of my seat. I felt like the despair, like flying into the unknown, into like the future. So I feel truly like I've kind of been on that journey the last few weeks. So I'm really excited to see what's in store for season 3 and, you know, how they're going to make their home here. So this episode opens up with Dr. Culver doing a log.
We haven't gotten, I like the logs. We haven't gotten like a lot of the captain's log, start date, whatever, or medical log.
Yeah.
So that's great. Now I think it was my ears blinked and I missed it, but he is the CMO on Discovery, isn't he?
Chief Medical Officer. Okay. Yeah, as
for
he
some
should.
reason, for some reason, why did I think that he was not, or at least was not in the first season or 2? Because maybe it's nothing, but for some reason I thought that the other doctor or someone else was the CMO, but not him.
There is another doctor who I think it may be like the relief CMO or the coach CMO or the section
deputy CMO.
Dr. Pollard. Yeah.
So she's way cool.
You saw them both like side by side a lot, so it was never really clear who was in charge. But I think this finally settles it, which is good.
Right. Well, because she had a lower rank, and that's what made me think. Okay, well, there's probably no way that a lower ranked officer would be the CMO.
You'd be surprised during wartime and times of crises. Yeah.
So you can have a higher rank and have your CMO be a lower rank.
I don't know if like it's on the same ship, if you're going to see like a commander being like just a medical officer and like a lieutenant or lieutenant commander being the CMO. I don't think that there's like precedent for that. Unless you guys are like
there are examples with O'Brien, right? Like O'Brien was ordering around lieutenants and ensigns when he was just an enlisted officer as the chief engineer of Deep Space Nine, essentially.
Right.
Mhm.
And the EMH had 0 rank and was ordering officers around. And I think what happens there is the chief title goes to the person who has the most experience in the field. Like the CMO or the EMH would have had the most medical experience on Voyager, given it's the EMH. So it had the privilege of also being the chief medical officer, and it invoked, I am the chief medical officer, you are relieved from duty rule, even though it effectively had no rank.
So I think it's a little bit different. I think this is cross-applying stuff from like the US military or like militaries in the real world. But so there's a rank and then there's a position. So captain is both a rank and a position. So you can have somebody who's a captain of a ship whose rank is like lieutenant commander, right?
Or admiral.
Exactly. Same way you can have somebody who is a chief medical officer whose rank is an ensign because they just happen to be the senior most person and they're in that position, right? Conversely, you could also have somebody who's an admiral who's the CMO under a captain of a ship. Now, when it comes to things of like command, who's making decisions for their ship, the captain of the ship makes those choices. But if it comes to like a question of rank, like can that admiral give orders to the captain? We've never seen it in Star Trek, so it's kind of hard to say. But in the real world military, you have people who are like doctors who have admiralty ranks, like vice admirals or similar ranks, and they will take orders from a captain in such a situation.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like especially in Starfleet, and not to get too into like the weeds here, but like there is a lot of respect in the ranks, of course. And so if you have an admiral that's saying, here's what the brass wants to do, the captain can of course contend that, but by and large, I think they typically fall in line. I mean, throughout the universe, they probably do, but like, of course, during the narrative, you're going to get a lot of pushback because that's what creates conflict, i.e. like the brass wanting to like completely nuke the Klingon homeworld in season 2 and like Pike pushing back on that. So yeah. So we see Dr. Culver's log. Reality is sinking in for the crew. The log is very telling of the state of the ship. Sure, physically they're all fine, but like a lot of them are struggling, especially our pilot, Kayla.
Moment. The sensor that he's waving around, very much like we see in the original series and in other things, like particularly the original series, has a spinning diode or something on the inside that keeps going. Really cool,
dope.
Really cool callback to the original series for it too.
Well, then think of the stress that they're under because the decision to go 900 plus years into the future was kind of a very sudden. We don't have time to even tell our loved ones what was happening.
Adrenaline,
right? It's just like suddenly you are going to be gone. And now I don't because pretty much everything about Discovery and their mission and what happened ended up being classified and redacted. So do their family and loved ones even know what happened to them, or were they just listed as missing in action? So you're thinking about that. You've got family and loved ones you've left back home that, now they don't know what's been told because that was all after they're leaving at the end of season 2. Yeah. So there's no telling. They don't know what Starfleet told of their fate, but now suddenly they're there, and it's got to be very stressful.
Yeah, like not the unknown behind and the unknown ahead leaves a lot of like, where am I now? I'm feeling listless. And, they made this decision.
I get stressed when I leave the house and I wonder if I remember to close the garage door. I can't imagine.
And did you turn the burner off? Did you unplug your hair dryer? Or at least I asked myself that question. So yeah, they made this decision during a battle, during a time of crisis when adrenaline was like flooding their system. They were getting probably they were exhausted. And now that they're on the other side going about their duties, I'm sure they're thinking, was this a mistake?
Right.
I thought this is a really cool thing about time travel is it's one of the aspects that's a little less explored in the time travel genre, if you can. Like people get stranded and then pretty much they ignore this and they go right to, all right, we've got to make a living here. And they go off and they do their thing. But this was really talking about like that just sort of, like you said, that listlessness. And I was writing, I was like, man, it's, you're no longer around for the celebrations of others who are close to you, that you were there, and they're not around for yours. You know, no one's going to see your wedding now. No one even knows you're alive. And that leads into something that I'm hoping we see in the next episode, or at least when they find Starfleet, that someone somewhere had, you know, black security clearance to know that Discovery was going to emerge in the 3200s. And now it's
okay.
Definitely could be cool. The big thing that strikes me about this whole thing, and it is part of the time travel aspect again, is the people left behind, right? Sure. You classify the mission, people in Starfleet are going to follow orders. They're going to ask about, well, what happened to my friend over in Discovery? No, they're going to not talk about it. Cool. How does that affect Mama Tilly? Tilly's mom is not going to take it standing down or sitting down that her daughter is just gone. They're not going to tell her, where is my daughter? Where is my kid? What about the parents of every other ones, or their spouses, or their children even, right? Like, people are going to have been looking for Discovery. Absolutely. It's not going to be this sort of like complete void of knowledge. You can't stop parents looking for their kids. We find that in the real world too.
Well, no, wait, wasn't the story that Discovery was lost with all hands? That just popped into my memory, because yes. I think they said that so that they would discourage what you just said, Renzo, was the whole fervent search for what happened. If they just say,
saw them die.
Right, we saw them die. It was destroyed. And that pretty much like ends the story and keeps what you're talking about from happening, because that would be counter to them trying to classify and redact the fate of Discovery.
And while that's technically not a lie,
messages.
The goodbye messages?
Yeah, like you see them recording these things like at the end of season 2 before they make the jump. They're like, and you were always mom's favorite. We know that. Like, you know, you guys remember that, right?
Yeah, I remember that. But like I said, yes, they recorded all those messages. However, when they were doing, when the Enterprise crew and Tyler were doing the debriefing after the fact, there's no telling. They could have taken those messages and just said, okay, well, now that we're going to classify and redact Discovery and its existence, all these goodbye messages need to also be classified and whatnot.
I'm with you there. I'm not opposing that. I'm just saying that I don't think a parent's going to care that, oh, their ship was blown up.
Yes.
Who cares? I need to find this out for myself. I need to go.
Okay.
That parent is going to look for that kind of thing, like look for those recordings.
Where's the wreckage?
I can't speak to the families of everybody else, but I am 100% predicting by the end of this season, we're going to see a hibernation chamber open up and Tilly's mom's going to come out.
I would be like more. I would lean more towards like Burnham's mom somehow.
That would be interesting,
because like we never really got the resolution to that plot thread, but let's keep going.
Yes.
And get into the episode. So the medical log is, he's checking everyone. You can tell he's doing a great job. Dr. Culver is doing the CMO's duty, which is the health of the crew, and not just physically. We know mental health is such a vital aspect of your holistic health. So he goes into saying that Adira is going to help them track down Federation secrets from the symbiont inside her, who may or may not know the historical knowledge of where the Federation is currently. And there's no way to know why she can't remember things. So we're going to Trill.
A little trip to Trill.
Super dope.
So yeah. Culber here, he's like a total empath, and I'm thinking of him as like the ship's life coach, because he's handling this whole time travel thing really well. 900 years in the future, my duty's to the ship. I'm going to make sure the crew is taken care of. Is someone taking care of Hugh?
We're hoping, but let's not forget, right? He also went through his whole like disassociative, like he stopped having a body. He was trapped in the mycelial network for a while. So he's probably like, okay, time travel is cool, but have you ever been?
Yeah. Oh, okay, you guys.
Have you ever spent a night in the mycelial network?
Yeah.
Oh my jeez.
Yeah, I think he's kind of like embracing this new life, because so much of his past is such a mystery to him and such a removed set of memories. Like it's someone else's memories, I think he said. So I think he's like diving headfirst into this new future and just trying to be like the best he can be for the crew. And I like his partnership with Saru as the episode goes on. It's really awesome to see, because I love Trek medical stuff. So we cut to the title sequence. Beautiful as always. And then they just straight up jump to Trill. No waiting. We have a spore drive. It's functional for now. There's a lot
really
of
helps keep the story
in this
going.
episode. Yeah.
And Trill is beautiful.
It is. It so reminds me of the like TNG, like here's the set,
Mm-hmm.
you know, here's the set and here's all the flowers, like the way the flowers were when we get down there. I'm jumping ahead a little, but I
was going to say, let's not skip the medical actual bit, because there were some interesting things there that we should probably talk about too.
Yeah.
So like
For sure.
the symbiont itself, right? It is a lot bigger than we've ever seen them before. It takes up like a huge amount of her entire chest cavity, wrapped around her heart, even like they mentioned, protecting her.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. That is a much bigger piece of meat extra added to you than anything we've ever seen in Trek, as far as I can think. There is
Sorry, I
a
just
little
thought
bit
that
of
was
beta.
an extra piece of meat added to you.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I think of that comes close is from Beta Canon. They talk about how the Trill symbionts grow throughout the course of their entire life, so they're always getting bigger. And at a certain point, they stop being small enough to fit inside of a Trill, so they end up being deposited into certain caves that we'll see later in the episode. So this whole portion of it does make sense with a lot of the Beta Canon stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when they live in those caves, that's where they reproduce. That's where they like share memories with each other at the ends of their lives, kind of thing. So definitely fits. It's really well integrated.
We know that this particular symbiont has to be at least over 800 years old, and we'll talk about reasons why at the end of the episode. But it makes sense that if they get bigger over that era, that an 800-year-old symbiont, the last symbiont we really had any experience with was Dax, and Dax was only about 300 years old.
There is a medical diagram of a Trill that is on Memory Alpha, and it's from a book. It's like the first 150 years of the Federation or something like that. But the Trill in the medical diagram looks like it sits between like the liver. It like wraps around the liver. It's a much more like horizontal like partnership. It's not so much like bam, but the body of a Trill. I'm sure there's like potentially a cavity there for the Trill to exist. So again, we have to remember Adira is a human. So
yeah,
not
well now, and that's the thing that I was a little confused with when you're talking about, because yes, Watney, you're right. The Trill body and physiology may have just evolved to accompany and house a symbiont. Whether you're an actual host or not, it's like your body is developed that way just in case, but the human body is not. So that where in the hell would this thing fit? There is no extra space or cavity in the human body to just suddenly have a 2 foot long Subway sandwich stuffed into your body.
So like the human body is extremely adaptive, first of all. We do organ transplants now, and your body will adjust for like the size of that. The organ itself will grow in size. Like for example, if you have 2 kidneys, you lose a kidney, your other kidney will grow to fit the like needs of your body. So we know that humans are very resilient. We also know that Adira is like 16 or something. So I'm sure that like if this symbiont is probably going to stay with her unless something happens. Am I getting Adira's pronouns right?
They actually haven't specified in the episode at all.
I really want to make sure they did.
They've used she and her on her, but we've been told that from like external sources that the character is non-binary.
Okay.
They haven't had a whole
but she and her is fine.
Right.
For non-binary.
Yeah. They haven't had any conversation of like call me she or her or anything.
Okay,
so.
great. I just want to be extra respectful of that.
I've also heard from Blue Del Barrio, who plays Adira, that that emergence of non-binaryism is going to be part of their arc.
The trail journey, of course.
I'm referring to them as they them just because that's what I know that their end goal is. But if there is, if there's a correction that I need to make, you guys can let me know. The commenters can let me know. The audience, just let me know. Like, how does that work?
I think, Well, do we want to preempt that transition and the growth there with, I don't know.
Well, because you guys all know Lade, my partner, is non-binary, and he prefers the he him mask leaning, and it was just a moment where it was like, yesterday we were not sure, today we're trying this out, and it's been that way for over a year, and that's where we are with that. So it's been an interesting experience there, but it was very much yesterday we did one thing and today we are not doing that thing at all, and we're doing this instead.
Now, one more thing to point out, though, is the size of the bluegill parasites from Conspiracy and TNG is the queen, at the very least, is very close in size to the trill that we saw in Adira. But only the queen, not the little ones.
Right.
But it's only beta canon that they're related.
Only beta canon they're related. Very true.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
In the books, the bluegill are an offshoot of the trill symbiotes.
I mean, it's like it's huge. We'll insert
if we bring the bluegills back in the 32nd century, I'm going to be so mad.
Why? I mean, that's dope. That's like one of my favorite villains.
Watney, my main thing was not so much the being able to adapt to having it. It was just the mass displacement of where are you going to fit something that size inside a human body that does not have extra space already just ready to go.
Just take the lungs and move them and then move the liver. You're fine, right?
Jay,
forget about it.
Have you ever eaten like a full sub sandwich? If you can eat one and cram that into you, there's space for it.
Well, I don't put it, full into my mouth like a cone head and not chew it.
Mass. You cannot get rid of mass.
That's not how you're supposed to eat it.
Okay.
Not the human
like
way.
A cone head. Oh my God. Way. What a fucking callback.
Dan Aykroyd,
so anyway, we do the scan. Anything else you want to touch on here before we continue?
No, good God, let's keep going.
Okay.
I do want to point out that in the whole Adira thing, I love how uncertain and hesitant and maybe even just a little bit jumpy she is here. They are here.
Right.
And it plays into the end of the episode, but I feel I want to point that out now because by the end of the episode, we see a cool change.
Yes. It comes with the restoration of memories and life. So excellent. Saru's like, we're going to Trill. We're going to Trill. They jump to Trill.
Which you're right. It's a really cool plot device or story device to just have the ship jump around rather than having to travel places.
Absolutely.
Definitely cool.
Keeps that plot
going. It really
going.
Cuts down on that time to make captain's logs in transit.
Yeah, but so much happens at warp.
You don't get that ship at warp with the stars, captain's log, stardate 475.
Yeah, but the satisfying sound of the flip to me, it's so nice.
And they're not focusing on the spinny bits anymore, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like spin drop.
Yeah.
It's so great. So yes, we are going to Trill. I don't know where we are in the screen grabs, but we finally get there. It's beautiful. They're like, hey, do you recognize this planet at all? And she's like, not really.
They arrive at Yellow, which is a neat detail too, because they're not really sure how they're going to be welcomed.
Yes.
After what happened at Earth.
Yeah. But it's a nice change of pace. The Trill, I think we're always kind of like chill by and large from what I saw in DS9. So it's like, because they have like all this wealth of knowledge. So it's like hard to really, I mean, obviously now this episode, we saw some not so chill Trill, but yeah, he's like the bridge. What's his name? I'm really bad with names for Discovery because I didn't watch all of them with subtitles.
Who's the comms officer?
Yeah,
I mean, Owo is the comms officer. I think he's
the
like
comms.
sensors.
Owo is short for
Owo-shikan. Yeah.
Who is she's the
ops officer.
Right,
Yeah,
she's the ops officer.
Oh, he's not ops?
No,
Okay.
he's comms.
He's comms.
Oh,
Right.
shit. Okay.
No, it's okay.
I'll find it. I had it down.
I'm going to get it down.
Yeah. We're not
Bryce,
at that.
Bryce. Yeah.
Bryce, that's right. Yeah.
Bryce is like, no weapons, nothing hostile. The commissioner boss hops in with a hologram. I loved like in the first few episodes of this, like, I think it was the episode prior, but like the Earth woman was like, a view screen, how quaint. It was like, that was really funny to me because like we love a good view screen, you know.
This what just happened here, just real quick, Watney, is a interesting point that I really hope that they work on to fix, and it's the fact that in TOS and TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, all of that, after a couple episodes, you knew who everyone was, their names, their positions, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
We're in the 3rd season of Discovery, and there are many characters here that I just like, I know what they look like, I know where their position is, but I haven't been able to commit their name to memory because there has not been much. It's like it's
the Burnham show,
right? It's the Burnham show, and that's the thing that's very hard. It's been hard for me to adjust to because I've been so used to knowing who your characters are, and there are just so many nameless characters here. I keep trying to think of, okay, who are my bridge officers? Who's my Worf and Troy and Geordi and Data, but they don't really have that. Yes, they've mentioned each person's name, I think, once, and that's been it. But there's not.
When Mike Pike said goodbye, he was like, "You guys are good at this." And
there have not been.
And I'm like, "Wait, what was that name?" But we did have a spotlight for Ariam,
right?
And she like died.
Yeah.
The next episode,
the same episode,
which is like making it's like, okay, we're getting Ariam time. She's gone. There's something going on with her. She's dead. And
that's part of the change, right? Yeah. That's part of the changes that they did with Discovery, right? The first season, they were just background characters. They were never even barely spoken to. In the second season, they started getting a little bit of personality and names. Kayla and Awoshikan finally got their episodes. Like early on in the season, they were the ones that went on away missions and such. So we got them a little bit. Now we're getting a little bit more. We're meeting Nilsson, who's the same actress who used to play Ariam. She was the one who went in to rescue Stamets earlier in the season.
Oh my God, I just got chills. Is that the new bridge officer?
Yes.
Yeah. She's the one who sits on the captain's chair when.
Oh my God.
Yeah. She was the original Ariam actress.
I like her already.
And you know what I love about
that's so cool.
What I love about that is, one, she played Ariam right up until that last episode where they got somebody else to play Ariam, and then Nelson shows up. And now she's Nelson, and she is just your typical run-of-the-mill human. No cybernetic implants. She's not an alien. She's not a hybrid. She's like Jen. She is remarkable in that she is not remarkable among this crew.
She's kind of like the normal we can relate to, and hopefully we get to see more and more of her. But like, that's how I wrote Jen for a long time, was she's like the typical human, and all the weird stuff like bounces off of her. She's like a mirror. Because that's how space is. You know, you have like the weird aliens, and like everyone loves those like lovable characters, and then you kind of like identify with the human because obviously we're all human. So, but
you guys touched on a really good point when you're like, it's the Burnham show, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, TNG had focus episodes, and I was thinking about Picard, and even Picard in its own 10 episodes, there was a Rios focus and a Raffi focus and a Jurati focus. And you know, maybe it's because we did like 10 episodes where we broke down each character, and that's why they stick. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It has been 75% about Burnham. We know more names about on the Enterprise in Discovery than we really do about the people on Discovery themselves.
Search for Spock, you know, Section 31, the whole like Ash Tyler plot. Definitely more about Burnham than really anybody else. And that's okay. Like, I like the change in format personally. I think Lower Decks does a great job of doing like individual spotlights, but for Discovery, it's fine because Burnham's such an interesting character. And honestly, like her change in season 3 has really been jarring for me. And I think she has performing amazingly in season 3.
Sorry, there we go. Sidebarring again. Keep getting us off track.
Well, one thing to mention before we move on, though, is also the fact that the cast that we see on every episode is not the same, right? Even in a Geordi-centric episode, we'd see a scene where Crusher's doing something. We'd see a scene with Troy doing something, etc. Right? Here, we'll go whole episodes without seeing Jet Reno or without seeing Nan, and that's like a chief engineer and the chief of security, and we just don't see them. And you know, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the choice that they've made for their show. It's just a bit harder to keep track of the entire crew than if you just don't get them, even like a background establishing shot kind of thing.
Seasons 1 and 2, when we had like a full complement too, it was very difficult to do that. But now that we're in season 3 and we have like, they did a great job this episode at the tree at the Presidio, or the former Presidio. Presidio? I don't know if I'm saying that right. And we get to see kind of like a group shot of who's going to be spotlighted through the rest of the show. So anyway, we jump to Trill. Saru comes down to talk to Stamets in engineering, and he's like, you had a piece of metal stuck in you and were induced into a coma. And the way he says it gives such familiarity, as Doug Jones is so good. He's just like an amazing actor, and his tone and inflection there really makes me think it's like, oh, you again, you know, like, don't just hand wave your injury, blah, blah, blah. And everyone's kind of repeating the same thing to him.
Well, and it's
Stamets kind of an ass here too.
Who is Stamets? Oh, he totally is. And also Saru is less concerned about Stamets and more concerned about the functionality Stamets provides for Discovery, as is the captain, as the captain should be. But I think in a way Stamets is kind of like, I'm also hand waving how I feel about this. And he's a total dick.
He is, because Saru has a very valid concern, because dilithium is a rare and precious thing. If you have too much of it, you might draw attention. I mean, people are out there pirating dilithium, so warp travel is at a premium. They have something that is unique to their ship that they are really trying to keep under wraps, because they're going to have a big target on their back. And you have one person who can operate it. So if you lose Stamets, you're screwed. So yes, that's a very real, scary concern. Yeah.
Very easy to lose a crew member, especially someone who's so prominent. It's like the weight of what they can do is so much heavier. And it's just like, obviously he's not more important than anyone else on the crew, but he has a very vital role. So, and then Tilly suggests, hey, I've been thinking of a new like interface. It involves dark matter. And Stamets is like, don't waste my time. And she's like, motherfucker. I'm proud of Tilly I love Tilly, first of all. I think she's like my total favorite.
Yes. Throughout
the entire series. And her growth in this episode is pretty great. She kind of sticks up for herself, and I don't know, I just like where she's at. And then Stamets, you know, he's obviously going through a lot himself. He's in a lot of pain. He's like a very prideful person. And so for Tilly to suggest that he not be as vital as he is, I think it's okay for him to have a little bit of pride. It's like a nice character flaw to see in him.
Yeah.
He is like the chief on this project, and it would really break my heart if I was the chief on the project and I was also the one who figured out how to run the project with the implants. And then suddenly the captain's like, you know, you got injured, you could die, and that would leave this ship stranded. So we need an alternative. And I don't think Stamets was prepared to confront his own death. And part of his grumpiness here might lead back to the way Culber was, you know, assessing the crew with their stress levels. Like, his stress is running high as well. And now on top of that, he has to face his mortality and the added bonus of, you know, if any other member of the crew dies, the ship can probably still go. But if I die, the ship is stranded. So the future of the Federation for the moment depends on my ability to interface with this functionality.
Yeah, no, that's a very terrifying thing to consider as a captain too, right? Like in a world where warp makes you a target and dilithium makes you a target, this is our way of moving around without threatening our existence too.
Right. So, and imagine if like a whole bunch of like raiders showed up and were like, we're going to take your dilithium, and Stamets is like, we're jumping. It's a poof.
It's honestly like an insane piece of technology to have still. Like, it's more valuable than dilithium. Like Stamets is like the pivot point for a hugely desirable piece of technology.
He
More
is
desirable than Iconian gateways, to be honest. I don't understand why.
Yes, it's teleporting an entire spaceship.
Yeah.
He's the most valuable commodity suddenly in the galaxy.
Yeah, and I think he's kind of complacent, honestly. Like he's being a huge asshole. Like he needs to realize the weight of his responsibility and not be so like I'm important, but just be like, I'm here to serve you. Like I'm here to serve the crew for whatever they need. And I understand that if I die, that you guys will be at Impulse, or they can go at warp, but you know, they have limited dilithium. So anyway, we skip over to Burnham's quarters. Dr. Culber enters, asks for, hey, you got a second to talk? And he's like, look, Adira's lost a lot of all of her memories. She needs emotional support right now. And Burnham's like, what makes you think that that's me? And he's like, well, you guys both are kind of in a similar situation. And there's this thing like post-traumatic growth. Certain life events can inspire us to evolve and live our lives in a different way. And clearly Burnham, and he like reads her like a book, like she's still in the process of all of that. And like, she's a responsibility hoarder. So, and that hasn't changed. That's something that stayed consistent. So why don't you take some responsibility for Adira and go with her to Trill? Any thoughts on the scene? I like the dynamic between them in this scene a lot.
I like the dynamic between them as well. When I first watched the episode, and again, the second time I watched this episode, I did kind of feel like, okay, so this is the narrative's way of you know, getting Michael to go along with the action. Is there any other member of the crew who may have served this role? And, you know, I really can't think of anybody.
Which role are you talking about?
The role that Culber is calling out here is somebody to emotionally support Adira.
No, because we don't have a counselor
yet. Yeah.
They may not have a counselor, but why couldn't Culber go? Like, could this episode have also had like featured Culber?
Culber is very like settled, in my opinion. He's very adept. He's on top of his game. He needs to be on the ship with the crew.
I mean, didn't we just establish a few minutes ago that it's the Burnham show?
It is the Burnham show. She's got to go. Narratively, it does make sense. But I also think it's like from a character perspective, he's pushing her to go because he knows it's going to help her too.
Now, had this been the next generation, you're right. That could very well have been Culber. Could have been, you know, anyone but Burnham. But, you know, this is... Yeah, this is a different show.
Well, and he does go on to say, like, you've been in this time for a year. You're the most experienced person we have on the ship with this new era.
Very valid. Yeah.
So that helps a lot. But I was definitely still thinking like Picard or TNG era. This would have been Culber's episode.
Yes.
Well, I don't even know why it has to be just one person going down, to be honest. You could send them both. Send somebody who's going as like a doctor, a medical person, and somebody who's going to be like the comforter or like help with accommodating the change, which could be Burnham.
Too much risk.
For just be one.
But the risk is all heightened. I mean, when you go back to your home planet and you're welcomed with guns, hands on the gun already, and hostility, you've got a depleted crew anyway. There are just too many unknowns. Everything's even more dangerous than it was before. Unfortunately, you don't have the luxury of sending two of your top command officers on an away mission like you might have before all of this.
Yes,
so
we know it's a peaceful like situation, but I think Burnham's the perfect person to go. She has the in-universe knowledge of that time frame. We have a moment later on. Hoarder. She is a responsibility hoarder, but there's a moment later on where I was like, that's not very Starfleet of you.
No, the Starfleet thing would be for the entire bridge crew to go down at once.
Yes.
That's what we've seen a million times throughout the show. Oh, too dangerous? Let's send down the captain, the chief engineer, the etc. Right? So
you're not wrong.
We'll leave the transporter chief in command.
Entire important cast and crew in peril. Why don't we?
And we always have to send Stamets, so the ship is always perpetually threatened to be stranded.
If I was Saru, I'd be like, you're in engineering and you're in your quarters, and that is it.
Right.
Like, you're not going anywhere else.
You're not traipsing
you
around
figure
the
this
ship.
out. And that would give him incentive, I think, to
Figure out a backup.
But then again, engineering is like his total life, so maybe he doesn't give a shit. Anyway, so Adira and Burnham decide to go down together after some like, okay, fine, do it yourself, like some little like banter there. And I like the dynamic between them. I think it's really cute. I think she's like their sister.
I love the smug smile Burnham gets when she's like,
I
"Oh, if you're good, I'm out," and she
She's
starts
totally more
walking
expressive
away.
now. She's so much more expressive. Like all of her Vulcan tendencies have kind of been like washed away with the wormhole. Like now she's like loosey goosey. She's decorated her quarters. She's like not, a tight ass all the time.
But I also
great.
think that she has retained the analytical capabilities of that she picked up. And of course, you don't just lose that in a year, but in a year, perhaps that rigid Vulcan exterior is not the best way to make deals when you're bartering.
Absolutely.
And I like the sister dynamic that seems to be developing here between big sister, little sister. I think that's going to be a great dynamic, especially considering that that Burnham has already lost a younger sibling,
yes,
and an older sibling. I mean, where does Cybok fall in the age between Burnham and Spock, or should we not go there?
We're not going to talk.
Anyway, she's lost a couple siblings already.
Well, and I have a younger sister. I have a younger sister who's 10 years younger. And so seeing like the dynamic was like, Adira wants her independence and to go on her own. But then she realizes she kind of needs like someone to be there with her. And a sister is like the perfect person, I think, to be there, especially one who's like going to kick ass if she needs to. So we go to the ready room. Oh, they fly down, which is interesting because there's like transporters that are
a
personal.
nice touch, I think.
Really? Okay. What are your thoughts on it? I'm curious.
Here's the why. So the reason why transporters exist in Star Trek and why they exist in sci-fi basically is because it was cheaper. In TOS, it was cheaper to just beam them down than to show like a shuttlecraft scene every time. So that's why they just came up with the idea and they stuck with it, and it's become like a trope of Star Trek, right? Here, we don't have to worry about the budget. It probably costs them as much to animate a shuttle going down as it does to actually animate like the effect for transporters. So they're just using them both kind of interchangeably, which I like.
Right. Yeah, you're right. It's the budget is I think less of a concern now, and you can have it. It very well may have been that if given the right budget, that transporters would probably never have been a thing, or would have just been a thing for cargo, and that the means of transport from ship to surface was always intended to be shuttle. And in the 60s, someone tells Gene, hey, no, we don't have the budget to do something like this every time you want to go visit a planet. So, all right, well, why don't we just have them disappear and reappear?
Iconic...
This iconic plot device.
Yes.
So
it's legit a classic, iconic beam me up, which is never actually said, but classic track. It's like, I think it literally is like, in my opinion, Picard and transporting are kind of the bridges to pop culture for Star Trek. Like everyone knows Picard and everyone knows what beaming is. Everyone knows what transporting is. The shimmery light disappear, shimmery light reappear. It's kind of like a huge link to the other zeitgeist like pop culture media. For me.
Plus, the other thing that you get when you go down via shuttle, some good establishing shots.
Yes, and I love a good shuttle scene. So they hop on a shuttle, fly down. Quite archaic, but they have
how
a
quaint
screen. So yeah, very quaint.
I like we're here.
It's
in the
kind of
21st
ambassadorial.
Century. It's the 21st century. And we're talking about how archaic it is to send a shuttlecraft from a spaceship to a planet several hundred light years away.
Give my time, Zach.
It's great. It's great.
Times.
Sorry, Dan, did you say 21st century or 31st century? Because, we're kind of in both in this situation.
We're in the 21st century talking about how archaic it is. Yeah.
There we cut to the ready room for a very beautiful medical chart scene. I love this. So Culber tells Saru, crew's great, but look at their stress levels. So we need to do something like they need to feel connected. We need to find a way to make it happen. And if this continues, like there's going to be severe issues with the operations of Discovery. It's just a fact. Like mental health is critically important. This is a wonderful message in this episode. So we actually cut to Trill, and this matches Dag's beautiful background here. I love how you can see like deciduous and like evergreen trees here. It's kind of nice. It looks very earthy to me.
It feels what's really cool with here is it feels like a resurgence of nature after things have sort of fallen apart. It kind of plays into our post-apocalypse media, where after there aren't a whole lot of of the smart people to keep the tech up and growing, nature reclaims the space. And this is a really cool balance of that manicured space, but it's very just flowing with green. I love it.
Well, look at what happened here in 2020 during the quarantine. Air quality started going back up. You started getting more green just in your environments and the flora and fauna. When you slow down, man, and don't have them just out roaming and rummaging and capitalizing and everything else, then the nature starts to flourish again. And we're seeing this as one of those effects of the burn, is that now things were forced to slow down. Now you've got nature reclaiming and flourishing more. It's just the same as the planet that the transworms were on. You've got all this beautiful scenery, and that's because you've got less travel, you've got less foot traffic, less of whatever it is, and now nature's coming back. And that's
in Deep Space Nine. We got a few shots of Trill from orbit, but we never see like a city. We never see like an external shot or anything of the sort. But it looks like a lush green planet from orbit, even in Deep Space Nine. So at least we know that the Trill were protective of their environment, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
I think the only complaint that I have from a continuity perspective is, and don't get me wrong, but I believe in the episode Past Tense Part 1, Jadzia remarks that the oceans didn't look purple enough. And in the establishing shot from space, they don't appear to be purple. So maybe they just don't pollute their oceans anymore and they're blue now.
Right. Well, even now here on Earth, we have waterways, lakes, seas, oceans that are different colors. I mean, hell, there was a picture I saw of where the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean meet, and they look like two distinct oceans in regards to their color. It's not just distinction by name; it actually looked like two different things. So, yeah,
saying Jadzia was wrong about the colors of the oceans on her.
It could have been seasonal, Dag. It could have been seasonal.
Seasonal, yeah. The water just chromatically changes for the season.
If the sky changes color, the water will too.
If the sky stops reflecting sunlight the right way, the density of the ozone will change the color of the water. Done.
The angle of the light changes. We can rationalize this. We can come up with a way.
We can do this all day, man.
I understood that reference.
All day. So we drop down to the lush planet of Trill. Look, this is what I'm talking about. That last scene here.
Oh, look at those flowers.
Shit.
So
it reminds me of the scene where like Riker goes into the holodeck and finds Data. And
counter point.
And the and it's like the scene is set for the audience. It's almost like a stage play for me.
Oh yeah.
So
it's like everything's facing the audience and presented for you, and it's a very TNG to me. Very TNG, like blue flowers, red flowers, yellow flowers, fluffy flowers, lush plants, running water. It's very TNG.
Yeah.
If you are just listening to us, we have a series of pictures that we're going through, and we're currently talking about the lush flora on Trill. So you can watch us on the YouTube video, and there'll be
see our faces,
some imagery.
Yeah. So they go down to the planet. They meet the most fashionable ambassadors I've ever seen. Look at her dress.
I love the fact that she's in this, because I loved her in Schitt's Creek, where she was Ronnie, and now they're very different characters than what she's playing here.
I haven't seen that. Is it good?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. The
worth a watch.
Yeah. The humor, if you were really bothered by like cringe humor, like I can't watch this kind of scenes, it'll hit you hard because it hits me pretty hard that way.
Like It's Always Sunny.
Yeah,
kind of
a lot
cringe.
Of that. Yeah.
Okay.
Just stay
the show
tuned
itself is
as
I can't do that. I'm not like.
stay tuned for a future segment of our podcast called Beyond Shit.
Beyond the Creek.
But yeah, so the actress in the middle, she plays this role very regal, very diplomatic, but with authority, whereas her character in Schitt's Creek is like the town misanthrope who hates everyone. And it's a funny change of pace for her.
Amazing.
It's interesting to note here that she assumes the like superior leadership role when the guy in the yellow standing next to her was termed the commissioner. And we know that the Symbiosis Commission's leader was the commissioner of, the Trill Symbiosis Commission, not necessarily the head of the planet.
Correct.
She's probably like the prime minister or something,
right.
the elected leader.
That's what I'm getting here, is that she is the leader in this area, if not a governor, then possibly a planetary leader. And I did like that segregation of roles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Too.
Or would it make sense
Pokemon, like red versus yellow?
Well, her title was Leader Pav, so
would it make sense to think of her as like the Queen Elizabeth to the other dude's prime minister of, Britain kind of thing?
I think I would view her as like president, and then this commissioner guy is like the attorney general or something. Like
probably secretary of symbionts.
Secretary
gotcha.
of symbionts.
I like it.
Fantastic. I like how there's like continuity between their different styles. Like the reds all have like their arms exposed, and the yellows are like more conservative. And I think that kind of fits into like how they're supposed to be perceived. Like one's more modest and like conservative about like the ongoings of what's their culture, and the other are like, let's help, we're like gonna rip the arms off our sleeves to tell you how we feel. I guess I don't know.
the red clad ones, those are the guardians of the symbionts. They're the ones who go down to the pools, they tend the pools, they make sure the symbionts are
they're working
for.
They're getting their arms in the water and the liquid, so they have to have no sleeves.
And these yellows are
administrative.
They're administrative, diplomatic. I also love the fact that everybody on Trill wears a dress. Sign me up.
Yeah, so comfy, so comfy. So the conversation kind of ebbs and flows here. We also see like before we get there, we see a little fishy that starts flying. I thought that was really cute. It's in like the koi pond. So they're really super surprised she's human. And the tone completely shifts when they learn about that. Mm-hmm. All she can remember, Adira can remember, is Senatal.
Yeah.
So,
and that's just because she knows the name, not the memory.
Not the memory, but she knows a vague inclination of a name that she can go off of.
Right.
Lots of generalizations get thrown around about the Federation, about the Trill, about what they stand for, about what the Federation stood for, about how the universe currently is and how these people are reacting to them. It's a very yellow versus red in this situation. And the I guess maybe Chancellor or President, she decides that she's going to be sent back.
One of the really neat like cultural things that we get here, which I don't remember having seen in Deep Space Nine. I don't remember, but it's possible. It's been a long time since I've watched Equilibrium. But the whole like speak your names thing, tell me the names of your past hosts, right? As like a show that you have connections to these people still. That's a really cool thematic thing, and it makes sense for the Trill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I want to call back to that later when Adira emerges from the pool. They do something really cool there. Another one of the things that they establish here is they say in 2,000 years, no non-Trill pairing has ever succeeded. And one thing we do know is, there was a Riker Oden thing that was temporary. And I sort of put that on the wayside as like it's sort of an exception because we didn't get him with a symbiote for long term.
Right.
But I believe what they're establishing there is that joining is only a 2,000-year-old process. Like they've only been doing this for 2 millennia. And I think that's important because,
really?
I mean,
like a short amount of time where they're at from that point in time.
Well, if we could talk about this for a lot longer than we need to, but if we break it down, in 2,000 years, no non-human pairing or non-Trill pairing has succeeded. It either means 2,000 years ago, there was a pairing that succeeded, which is highly unlikely.
Right.
Given that 2,000 years ago would have been about Earth's 14th century, 12th century ish.
Yes.
You know, if we're 1,000 years in the future, then by Dax's time, it's only been about 1,000 years since they started doing the joinings, which means they've got pretty awesome tech in the beginning.
Right.
But I don't think they would have. I don't think they would have really encountered other civilizations to try and do joinings with if they're so protective of the symbionts. They wouldn't just allow a non-Trill to take a symbiont and bond with it.
I'm trying to think. I can't think of anything in DS9 that would contradict what you're saying here in regards to the 2,000 year thing. And I really think that these writers have shown since the first season, we are seeing that there's definitely some more care in continuity and canon. As opposed to first season of Discovery, where it was just like, fuck it, we're going to do whatever we want, kind of thing. So I'm going to say that I will. I'm going to give the writers the benefit of the doubt that they are pretty positive that they can say 2,000 years and that is correct now. And I'm not saying that there were no the little things, the official term from are they symbionts? Have they been given any other so
not in alpha canon.
Okay, not in alpha canon. So the symbionts, I'm sure they've been around probably just as long as the bipedal, 2 arms, 2 legs Trill. It's just and there was probably some means of communication and telepathy or whatever, in that the actual physical host symbiote relationship joining didn't start until 2,000 years or so ago.
I don't disagree with that. I'm definitely sure they coexisted for a while, and the Trill before the joining may have meandered into the caves. They may have gotten into the pools, and the electrical shocks might have produced some kind of communication. Mm-hmm. My other thought is that some dude came in, hopped up on these ridiculously beautiful shrooms, and was like, hey, if I put a worm in my belly, what happens?
Well, yeah, someone has to be the pioneer. I mean, can you imagine how many attempts that someone went through to find out that horses were the animals you could ride? I mean, who looks at a lion and be like, yeah, you know what? I can probably ride that. And it ends in disaster.
Was like, hey, a nice pool. Let me swim in it. And the symbionts dropped them down into whatever ether they sent the two in this episode and communicated with him like, hey, this is how you should cut yourself open and put us in there. Do you trust us? Like,
yeah, we got a good idea, man.
And they were like, God, that was a weird dream, or that was a bad trip, or that was not real. But no, they made it real and they made it happen. And here we are today. Here's
how I imagine it happened. Somebody stumbled in there wounded, fell into the pools.
Yes.
And the symbiont was like, hey, I can help it. I can help this out. Or something.
Yes, like someone had a belly injury and they took him in there, and the symbiont like latched on.
Sure.
But it doesn't have to be a medical thing.
Sure, could have been out of necessity.
No, what I'm saying is he was just wandering around, got wounded, stumbled into the cave, and fell into the pool. Like, they didn't do that intentionally. He just stumbled in and fell. Mm-hmm. That's my thought. That's probably how it happened. Renzo, do you have to add on to that?
So basing off of like beta canon, it looks like they've got a couple millennia worth of experience doing this, which is all cool and all. But think of it this way, right? We know that the age of symbionts is somewhere between like 600 years and like 1,000 years, right? So in the entire process of the joining, we've only been through 2, maybe 3 generations of symbionts doing this. So for them, this has also been a huge change as well. They've only been doing it for far less time than from the humanoid perspective. So for them, this is probably very still new process for them. We also know that by Deep Space Nine's time, there were only like 500 symbionts being joined with Trill host rate at that point. So their numbers are still very small. And if they're people or if they're beings that have like a wanderlust to them, the point that they make here about the burn having decimated their numbers makes perfect sense. If you have like a lifespan and you want to go explore, and Starfleet or other similar ways are on your way to do so, then they're going to all be in space and they're going to die in droves. So it makes sense that they're super protective of the symbionts they have. It seems strange, though, that they wouldn't be willing to try things to try and get the memories of this symbiont back somehow.
Well,
I think
Their
that they just
conservatism
viewed
catches
it
me off
as
guard.
like an aberration.
Yeah,
like
it's
they're like, shit, we've been alone for 900 years now.
Yeah.
Maybe no, like 100, 200 years, right?
100,
Has been the burn.
yeah, about 120.
So it's really not that long of a time. Like,
Especially not for a symbiont.
Right.
yeah, they live
But-
like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years.
the
So
loss of that accumulated knowledge combined with the Guardian statement that the civilization is on the verge of collapse. He says that makes me think that Trill pulled sort of a xenophobia thing, like
Yep.
we have to take care of ourselves, and we have this person here who might have a symbiont but is human, and we're not going to lose our morality and say we're going to kill this person and take the symbiont out, but we're going to kick you off our planet because it's more important for us to preserve our culture as is because it's so threatened right now than to allow you to not just pollute it being who you are, but to exploit the secret that we've been trying to keep, which is most of our population can be joined. And if that's a secret that gets out, then the symbionts might turn into a commodity, which is what they feared in Equilibrium.
yeah,
Right.
but in the but in the previous Federation, they wouldn't have had to worry about people co-opting their symbionts because that was part of like the peace. Like
Right.
it was
Right.
culturally respected.
And yeah,
but
and
now, I don't know
Trill's
how many are
decision-
left, but
Trill's decision would have been protected by the Prime Directive because it's a planetary internal matter.
Mhm.
Right, but the Trill are not members of the Federation anymore. So that's a,
Yep.
Was Trill ever a member of the Federation?
Yes.
They were.
Yes.
You
Mhm.
sure about that?
Mm-hmm. Positive.
Why don't you correct us if we're wrong?
Well, I mean,
yeah, you tell us
there-
we're wrong.
there isn't any real establishment that Trill is a Federation member in the shows.
Mhm.
Okay, well, given
that's
that-
been a question that has sort of lingered. We can make the assumption, sure, but
The thing is, though, that I get it right. You're Dag. You're right. In the shows, I don't recall that there was ever a very explicit statement of that. But we have the luxury of the 900 some years in between that all kinds of things could have happened. All kinds of members could have joined or left the Federation. So they've. And that's, I think, what is great about having the show jump to the future instead of being another prequel where you're locked in the canon, is that questions like that, you can say, well, wait a minute. They said they're not members of the Federation. Were they ever? We don't have a solid mission in DS9, but yet that's been 800, 900 years ago. So, there
Memory
you go.
Alpha says that they were admitted into the Federation in 2285.
Yeah, see, I thought they were, which is the same year that Wrath of Khan took place.
But yeah, it's
So,
fairly
yeah.
vague. And I think that's kind of how the Federation works. It's like, oh, yeah, Beta Z. Yep, Federation. Yep. It doesn't change anything other than you get like access to all of this other
Right.
shit. Like
Right.
you still keep your government, you still keep your culture, you still keep all that, but you it's peace. It's
Yeah.
like
Where do you-
the core.
we're gonna have to take this offline, maybe, but I don't. In Memory Alpha, I'm looking at it says it's unclear if Trill was a member of the Federation.
I'm looking at Memory Alpha Trill (planet). Search for the word Federation, and it's down like in the Apocrypha or something. I don't know.
Oh, the
Maybe it's-
Apocrypha.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is based.
That's beta
on,
canon.
That's
Yeah.
based on the Star Trek Encyclopedia.
Okay. So maybe not super clear, but I think it makes sense that they are because there's how many worlds in the Federation? There's like
150 member worlds, but who knows how many like additional associate members and such we've seen.
I wonder if there's like tiers
Probably.
membership.
Well, remember, there's the
Like a gym.
the protectorate. There's the protectorate that they had in Insurrection. I can't remember what they were called. So,
Yeah. Well, you do have to like change certain things about yourself a little bit to be in the Federation. Like you can't have ever like enslaved or can't be currently enslaving people or something like that.
Right.
Okay. So where are we at? So
we're at-
Burnham and Adira are like, I guess we got to go, but they're like looking for the they're looking for the pools anyway. And the
I
yellow
think they're being escorted out is what's happening before Burnham like shoots them.
Yeah,
to
that's
get to
the not
pools.
very Starfleet moment of you. But
Well,
she
they
just
were also
doesn't
gonna try
hesitate.
and-
She's like, yeah, sure. Not gonna help us? Bye. Like, I'll just stun you.
It wasn't just that. They were going to take the symbiote, weren't they? They were going to take it from Adira. So
yeah,
they
because
were gonna,
they were ordered to leave, and the guy, the administrator guy, you know, the secretary of symbiosis, or whatever you want to call him, led them to a confrontation with these two guys and have these the pain stick looking things. And you said that Burnham just, you know, shooting the guy that tell us where the cave is. No, okay, fine. Sure, not very Starfleet, but
but it's been a year for her.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Is like she's not entirely back in Starfleet.
the year she lived was probably like 2020 has been for us. It changes you.
Yes, right.
God, does it ever?
There is
gray hairs now.
Yes, you can hold on to those Starfleet ideals, but the thing is that we are back in the Wild West style of living. There is a time and place for diplomacy. That wasn't it. So
I absolutely agree. I think she made the right call.
Yes.
Starfleet, like as Giorgio showed us early on in this season, in the bar scene, which that was like such a classic bar scene. They walk in, the guy's like polishing the table. Like it was great. He might as well have been like polishing a glass.
Yeah.
Giorgio showed us that this is a harsh future. Like this is a harsh reality. Your Starfleet, sure, you can keep your overarching like values, but you're gonna have to compromise. Like you're gonna have to make choices that don't completely align in order to survive. And she's kind of the queen of doing that. Like she's totally at home. She's thriving in this future. Anyway, so Burnham is like his face there. He's like, oh God. And because she has all these like former Starfleet officers like inside of her, like oh shit, they're all reacting simultaneously. I think,
Let's be real though. If this had been like Worf escorting Wesley or something, I don't think it would have gone any different. If this had been Kira escorting O'Brien
Dax.
somewhere, it wouldn't have gone any differently. If it had been Dax doing, I don't think any security officer would have traded this situation any differently. Oh, you're not going to tell us where things are? Zap. Okay, we'll find it ourselves.
Yeah,
you're
Not gonna let
right.
you hurt me.
So
I
can't let you go.
I thought that she actually killed him.
Oh no!
Like
no.
I didn't realize it was on like maximum stun.
Yeah.
So
You know,
I
and
thought
she's
she
really
just straight
lucky.
up like capped him. I was like,
Well,
oh
if-
my God.
If she had killed him, then what did you think when he came back later? He was a ghost.
Well, I obviously realized that she didn't kill him. Then.
yeah,
That's
right.
kind of
My
how
bad.
the logic goes.
Whoops! I thought I had
I
you
love-
there.
So the Red Guardians come with their muscles and they're like, we'll take you to the pools.
I love that the Trill don't have ranged weapons here. They just brought sticks.
it actually bugs me. The fact that in 1,000 years their technology has advanced very minimally, right? Like they don't have personal shields. They sent real people to do this, not
Personal
holograms.
shield.
Like could have done some stuff for us.
Mhm. And what's going on with the Borg? Oh God, is that a forbidden topic around
Wait a
here?
minute.
Did you
Oh,
guys
no,
get
it's
into
not.
this
No,
really in depth
but-
at some point? I
No.
Dag knows something. When I can tell by his body language, he knows something. We're about to step on some forbidden fruit.
I'm
there.
sus. I'm sus, but I'm not the imposter. I'm sorry.
You're,
I don't
you're
know
all
anything.
sus right now. Let's talk about the Borg.
Think how
Anyway,
deep that could go, that rabbit hole, if you bring it up though.
Yeah.
why don't we just put that to the side
Yeah.
as
Okay.
a side of like,
Yep.
how about we have that for dessert later?
Mhm.
So red guys come, they help him out, take me to the pool. We jump to Saru.
Love this scene.
Yeah.
Love this
This
scene.
was so dope. I was like, what's the computer doing? Why is it doing that? And then like later on we find out why, but
Yes.
he's totally just along with it. Like he doesn't feel threatened. He's basically asking the computer for like, how do I make the crew feel connected? Because he's a Kelpian and like, I guess it's like, he's not fully like the emotional intelligence may not
Computer,
be like entirely there.
What can we do for fun around here?
Yeah, but I've seen Saru be very emotionally intelligent and be very like open and like with his feelings. So it's very interesting to me that he's asking the AI for advice here.
But not
Well-
since Vaharai. Since Vaharai, I think he's been a bit more stone cold stunner kind of guy.
Yeah,
So
I
he's
think
a
you're
bit
right.
he's a bit more badass. So maybe he's just not
Stone
as
cold
affected by it.
stunner.
But yeah, point is the fact that the red sphere flashes on the screen on the computer behind him, and then the computer starts being a bit more like Zara from Calypso was real cool to me. Like that, if that's how the computer gets sentience, if that's how the thing like gets intelligent and gets cool, and we get dancing scenes in a holodeck, like that's awesome. I like it. This is a cool way to take it.
I only wish that Trisha Helfer was the voice.
Oh God, don't. Yeah, don't give me hope like that. That would have been great. And I just binged Lucifer, and she was great in that. I love me some Trisha Helfer. So here's what I was going to say in response to, well, why would he ask the AI about fun activities to do with humans? It's because regardless of how friendly or sociable Saru may have become recently, the fact of the matter is that in the last couple years, there has been no time to even think about socializing, doing anything like that. They've pretty much been running full tilt for a couple of years straight now before they even got to the future. And then the other thing is that he's a Kelpian. He is not familiar enough with human custom to know what do they do for fun. He may know what Kelpians do to relate and to bond and get together. Right. I mean, there's no telling what they do to relax and unwind. And what he's doing here is that, well, I don't know. I need to ask somebody. I'll ask the computer. Maybe the computer will know, because the computer has databases and knowledge, and will have those.
I'll get to the bottom of it somehow, but this will help me. Yeah. This
is one of those things where the crew around him is where he should be leading to, right? Like if Burnham was on the ship, the Exo was supposed to be like the bridge between the connection between the captain and the crew.
Yes.
Right? So if she were here and she's human, she'd be able to be like, well, let's do this. Let's try this. Let's have fun doing this. But she's off on some mission on the
right. She's not there.
Like she's been in the universe a year. She's been in the time frame a year. So she knows like all the cool spots. Yeah. Like go chill.
Maybe she knows the party planet down the road.
The party planet, exactly. Like what's the new Ryza? Am I right?
Full moment here from a technical and continuity standpoint. The computer voice sort of, and then you hear the sound of that sounds like a plural voice. It's very cool. Yeah. And what they did was they took the actress who does the regular Discovery computer voice, and they overlaid it with the actress who did Zora's voice from the short Trek, and they put them together. So we're seeing this transition from Discovery becoming Zora, which was the personality of Discovery. I thought that was really cool that they brought Annabelle Wallace in to do that.
What's the name of it?
Calypso.
The short track's called Calypso.
Yeah. Okay, Calypso. I'll check it out.
Okay.
Cool.
It should be
we love a tie back.
It's weird. This whole season might contradict the continuity of Calypso, or it might establish it. It's still not very clear. But it's a good short.
You're gonna love it either way. It's a really awesome connecting short.
Awesome. So yeah, Saru is like, all right, well,
we'll try a
dinner. We'll try a dinner.
Send the crew off to do like a day off. We'll give them the afternoon off.
Yep.
Give them the afternoon off. Yeah. So we go back down to the troll pools. The Red Guardian is like basically doing the equivalent of dipping your finger in the holy water and cruise, like, what's it called?
Yeah, you're right.
Genuflecting is when you kneel.
I'm not Catholic, so I don't know.
I was raised Catholic, so I should probably know that. But anyway, he does the thing where you like dip your finger in the holy water and like cross yourself. So
right.
They go down into the beautiful caves of Makala, and we see the glowy troll pools. And once again, very, very beautiful setting. It's their ancestral home. We can see them kind of like swimming around. And these are like the most ancient Trill symbionts, I would think, if they're in the pool.
From a setting standpoint, this also is a really good callback to the Equilibrium episode. It looks a lot like the caves that they use there. The colors are a bit bluer, whereas the ones in DS9 are a bit redder, like the lighting, but otherwise dead on. Love it.
Well, and he called them the Caves of Makala, which is exactly where they went in that episode. So this is really cool. Jadzia Dax may have been here 900 years ago. It's great.
Yep.
Yeah, that's like a great callback for Trekkies who love DS9. So he's like, you're gonna get in here and like hopefully they'll call to you. It's their ancestral home. And she's like, this feels totally safe in here. I love it. So she goes to change and she's like all giddy. She's like super excited.
It's not my style, but
yeah. And Burnham's like, I'm just here to hang out and make sure you're fine. And she's kind of disconnected in this episode. She's just,
the
uniform feels a little too tight now,
What I got from the Guardian was a very strong reverence for the symbiont and what it stood for here. He was willing to disregard that it could be, that it could be implanted into a human. He was very much about, I want the memories. I want to honor the symbionts like I have been trained to do my whole life, like generations of people have been trained to do since we started bonding. So I really loved that just the way that he spoke and his body language, it did convey a very strong reverence for that dynamic in their society.
Yeah, it establishes that, the highest order of respect towards the symbionts. Even if he may have never actually interacted with one, who knows? There may be so few left that he's never even seen one. We just don't know. But the reverence is there.
Yeah, it's really a wonderful scene for Trill fans. Like it's like just gag candy. We hop back up to Discovery in the conference room, where there is amazing, of course, Star Trek food. It always looks insane. The dinner looks so delicious, and everyone's like, okay, this is weird, even though it's a very normal thing to like get together with your bridge crew, I would think, and like have dinners like this and connect with them like this. I don't think that they do this ever.
I wish Jet would have been there.
7 years before he did like a poker game with his crew. And it's possible that in Starfleet, captains do present some sort of like professional boundary for most of them.
Unless you want to play your flute in the Jeffries tube with that one science officer that one time.
Well, then the thing is that you're talking about very different kind of characters, because Kirk would have been known to do something like that. I don't recall ever actually seeing something like that, but he would definitely be the kind of person that would do that. Picard was kind of more of an administrator kind of guy. You're right. He did not have the kind of relation to his officers the way Kirk did. And you're right. It took Picard 7 years on that ship to loosen up enough to join them for, on a card game. Cisco was very much would do something like that with his officers, and so did Archer. Archer had regular meals with Trip and with T'Pol. So
that's
I
not
think
the whole crew either, right? Like we never see him do that with everyone. We never see him do it with Mayweather.
He did it. He did with Reed, with Malcolm Reed, or no, was that Trip? Was Archer gone and Trip tried to do? No, I think it was Archer tried to have. I remember seeing with a dinner scene, there were more people there, and Reed was there, and he was just all about talking shop, talking business. And I can't remember if it was Trip. It was Trip. Yep. I can't remember the circumstance that he was, but I remember seeing, I could picture in my head, he kept trying to eat and someone kept talking, and he was like, had this look of, dude, seriously, we're just trying to have dinner. And so yeah. And basically, I don't want to, get too off track, is that I really think it depends on who that commanding officer is. If it's the kind of person that just has that mentality of, I want to have that connection with my staff, you'll get that. Yes.
Yeah,
so
Pike was absolutely.
Yeah, Pike was like that. So it's not so much a Starfleet thing. It's not so much a captain by role does this. It's the person. Picard is just an exception.
So is Janeway, though. I can't imagine Janeway having everybody over for dinner either.
Really?
Mm-mm.
I think Janeway's like 1-to-1, but like in a group, no. Like she was super, super close with Cass.
Right.
And then
and Seven.
Tuvok.
Yeah.
She also had dinners with Chakotay.
And Chakotay.
Yeah.
Very one-on-one captain, but like I think in a group she'd probably feel like I can't not command. I can't not be in a command. I don't know. Great thought though.
This dinner started out so well, just in talking about the food and some of the experiences, and then Giorgio just drops a haiku in the middle of it, and then Tilly's trying to do it too, and you're just like, yay, they're doing a thing. And then
I did get a lot of tension at the beginning from Tilly and Stamets, who have been at each other's throats a little bit. Tilly's very passive, so she's probably like, she becomes unpassive later, but like at the start of conflict, she's very like, okay, why don't you go ahead and say what you got to say? And then she's like, do you guys think? And then they start like haikuing, and then it turns into like a weird PTSD thing with Kayla, and she's like kind of freaking out about like everything that's happened. And Stamets is like, they go at it, and everyone's just like, well, this is and I've been at dinners before where like a couple is like fighting in front of everybody, and it's like they're like under their breath, and I'm just like, dude, he worked really hard on this like roast, and you're gonna do this? Like, that's expensive meat.
This is Thanksgiving dinner right here.
I guess we're not quite to Detmer's moment in our
we're ahead. We're thinking of the scene as a whole, but it does go back and forth pretty quickly. So anyway, they go to dinner. Saru gives a little speech. Giorgio's thriving, clearly. They say a cheers. We cut back to Trill. Adira enters in a new outfit. Beautiful.
Which looks very much like what Jadzia wore in Equilibrium.
Yes.
White gown. We
get in the pool.
I like that Adira also says it's not really my style. That's just little note there.
Yeah. We get in the pool, and Adira's eyes go white. We are now in communion. There's like this little device that monitors like the brain levels.
Isoboramy.
Yeah, it's super awesome. Like, this was very ritualistic to me, and I just adored every second of it.
And the isoboramine is still a callback from the Trill connection thing. It's what maintains their connection with their symbiont.
Interesting.
This very much comes off as like a ritual, a cultural ritual, or maybe even potentially like something that evolved from a religious ritual rather than something scientific. This isn't like a medical lab where we perform the joinings. No, this is a holy communion sort of situation, like Watney was saying. I'm with you.
What I liked about it.
Eyes go white, and we begin the process. We cut back to dinner, and Tilly and Stamets at each other's what is the beetle pie or something he says?
Some kind of beetle pie or okay.
Tilly admits that she puked on the Tellarite ambassador at Thanksgiving
in a haiku.
Yeah. She's very intelligent. She's very smart. Shit goes south. Giorgio obviously pokes holes in everyone's demeanor, as she always does. That's like her thing.
Yes.
But by the end of this scene, I thought like, this is a crucial part of therapy. It's being able to get out those thoughts. This may not have been the best way to do it, but they got it out into the open. And Giorgio, being a Terran emperor, is going to constantly remind people of their weaknesses, but not in the way that you're inferior to me, in a way that it means you need to do better. You need to work on this. Now she might be direct and unempathetic about the way that she does it, but over the course of last season and this season, if Giorgio wanted to kill any of these people, she could, and she would have. But she's here and she's working this out.
To do that. Like, she's very resource driven. She has violent tendencies.
She also has like a low threshold of, okay, stop whining. Your problems are this, and this. Deal with it.
She straight up admits that like her mother and her relationship was horrible, and that's probably what causes a lot of her Hitler tendencies like down the road. Like, there was a point in last season before they like jump, and she's like, Stamets is like, it would be very difficult to find a supernova to get the energy you need for this, because they're very rare. And she's like, just take an antimatter missile and fire it into the core of a star. And Saru's like, we would be responsible for the death of everyone in this system. And she's like, yeah. And Saru's like,
and
talking about somebody who nuked Kronos without a second thought.
Yes, absolutely. And that kind of gets like, whatever. Like that, I don't really
Just
care
face
about
it.
that.
We literally.
She is worse than Hitler. Like she literally is worse than Hitler.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
but
As far as we know, Hitler never ate anybody that was sentient. As
and
far as
she's
we
not
know.
apologetic about it at all. No remorse.
Nope.
She's like a viper in with a bunch of like little sparrows.
And she's a
in this
delight to have in scenes as a result because
Yeah.
she's so different
Snake-
from
yes, I love
everything
her.
else we see.
Yeah, I love
know,
her.
if I could just take this moment to tangent a little bit, every series has had that character that reflects humanity from a different perspective. We had Spock, we had Data, we had Odo, we had T'Pol, we had Seven of Nine and Kes
And the
and
Doctor,
Neelix
yeah.
and the Doctor. And everybody, a lot of people have asked, who's that character in Discovery? And it's Georgiou.
Yes.
It's the Empress Georgiou. She absolutely flips everything back on you in a way that's like, I didn't think about that before, but that's mean.
This scene was lacking. Unfortunately, Jet Reno again, second episode in a row that we haven't seen her, and this would have been a perfect opportunity to have her there. And it's a shame. Yeah, I don't know what was going on with Tig Notaro's schedule when they were filming. But
she's not a regular. She's still a guest star.
Right, but I mean,
she actually likes it that way.
Everyone we know on that ship is sitting at this table, except her. You've even got obviously because she was down on the planet. I just mean
she's part of a bridge for
right,
number one.
Right. I just mean that besides Burnham, obviously, everyone else that we've known as recurring characters here,
Dr. Pollard isn't there.
God damn it, Renzo. I'm just gonna sit here.
So on the topic,
You're right.
of Georgia,
You got me on that one.
But I know what you're getting at, and I'm with you.
Yeah.
I love that she wears black all the time, which she looks fantastic in. And it's
What's
a
her
callback to
emo
Tomorrow
face?
Never Dies, where she played a Bond girl and she wore black like the entire movie.
Oh yeah.
She wears like black cat suits in like the James Bond movie. So
now what is up with Detmer? I mean, what is her
It's PTSD.
attitude?
It's PTSD for sure.
It's
My
yeah.
one
PTSD.
criticism of the scene though is actually the writing. The writing feels a little bit stilted. It feels a little bit like it doesn't feel natural. It doesn't
Rushed.
some of this, it just doesn't work for me almost. It's a great scene, but the dialogue is what holds it from being an amazing scene.
Well, no, I
Wish they'd gotten somebody like Aaron Sorkin to write this scene because then it would have been faster, quicker, and better.
And we'd have no special effects into the budget.
Right. I got the whole PTSD thing. I get that. What I don't get was there seemed to be a lot of attention placed towards her having some problem immediately after getting there that seemed to be a physical injury that happened to her head, maybe to her implant.
yes.
It seemed like we were really being prepped to think that the actual physical impact of hitting that planet, being flipped over your console and having an injury was going to play into something. And so I don't know is that supposed to connect to the reasons why she's acting the way she is now.
Yes. Head injuries are very traumatic, not just to the physical brain, but you believe you're going to die. And that's a very, very, very traumatic situation to be in. And not just the fear of death in your face, your head is like cracked, you're injured. That's like where your brain is. So it's like, of course you guys know that. Why am I saying that? It's like, it's the most,
Thank
it's
you
like,
for reminding us.
it's like your pilot. And so for her to have her brain injured and a head injury, she didn't have a concussion, but at the same time, it's like with a lot of head injury stories that I hear, if you feel like it's worse than it is because it's like literally your head. So
this is her second injury.
Yes. And so I think the fear of death combined with all the shit that she saw in that time frame while Discovery was like in the battle, going through the wormhole, that has like completely impacted her. Like,
right. Cause she had she got the head injury during the battle at the Binary Stars, which is the reason why she has this implant and this different eye. So, during that battle, she lost an eye, had some injury that necessitated now this implant. So she's dealing with that, coping with that. And now she's had another thing happen. So, okay.
I would say that she had a minor psychotic break.
Okay.
Yeah, period. For sure.
You know, and given that Culber sets the stage for that at the beginning by saying that their cortisol levels are off the charts, it makes sense to have somebody have that moment.
Okay.
And it happens here. And from a therapy perspective, I think that it was good that it got out. I don't think it was the best way to have the conversation. But it is one of those things where the problem needs to be out in the open so that we can all address it and say what we need to say.
Okay.
Move through it. Let your fear and your issues move past you. As I say in Dune, after that, only you will remain.
Okay, that's okay. Why don't you just say Big J, just get back on pace.
No, ships need counselors. That's what a lot of the things the trauma that we've seen this season and last season tell us. It's like, you need one. You know, I get it. Kirk was a badass and he didn't need one on his ship. Fine. I don't care. Most ships need a counselor because people take damage internally.
There's so many things in space that can fuck you up. Like, not to mention the external forces, but just the idea of being isolated out in the middle of nowhere, like on a 5-year mission. Duh. Yep. Like, it's going to mess you up. And honestly, on Earth presently in this year, everyone could use some therapy.
So, yeah.
So let's keep moving.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's too stressed for dinner to make it like help.
It just falls apart.
It's falling apart. Everyone leaves. Giorgio's like, well, at least there was wine. But so then we cut to the trail pools again. Adira sinks. The yellow guys come in and they're like, what are you doing? We told you not to do this, but she's gone. Burnham gets into the pool and she's like, she's not here.
I did wonder why Burnham was selected to do this and not somebody who might have been more experienced.
I think those guys brought all of their baggage, brought all of their Trill, like cultural, you can't get in here unless you're a host shit, like into the pools. And so they were like, go ahead, Burnham. And plus she knows her. She's not going to feel threatened by Burnham as much. So
I think they're in the arena of we're off the script. It's time to improvise. And, you know, if you believe you know what you're doing, you know, this person, just go, you know, get in. We don't have time to screw around and debate it.
Adira's lost in the sauce. So Burnham goes in to guide her out. She sinks and drops downwards, then upwards. It's kind of a cool like effect. She's tripping out. She's like, what the hell are these things around me? She's calling for Adira, and they figure out they're inside the symbiont. They're like mentally they're inside the symbiont, maybe even physically too, but she has to let them connect. Adira is like hesitant to let them touch her, but that's how they like commune, is via touch in this way. And it's like super pretty. It's a beautiful scene. And we kind of like go into the memories of Adira here, and we find out that her boyfriend was a Trill, and he died, and there was an emergency transfer basically into Adira in order to save the life of the symbiont, which was like a very beautiful thing for her to do.
They were on a generational ship. And
yeah, you guys can go into the whole memory thing, because it was a little confusing, I think, for me on how the memories were coming together.
Just so the scene where we see like the things connecting down, it's just like a metaphor, right? It's what your psyche constructs it to be like, right? This isn't physically what's happening. They're not actually standing on water having tubes connect to them. But when those things are connecting, it's a metaphor for like probably physically like acceptance of memories from the symbiont within her, right? And I'm sure that the symbiont is touching physically her neural cord and her spine, right? Like there's probably actual things touching it. And this is like her accepting that those connections are valid. And so those memories start flooding in. And it's beautifully shot. You're right. It's really cool how they did it.
I took it as literal because
Burnham is there.
Yeah, well, not just so much because Burnham was there, but because Adira literally vanished from the pool, and so did Burnham. So they went somewhere that their physical bodies are not in that pool. They are gone somewhere. So I get the figurative visuals of what's happening and how it's being shown here. But
It's magic. It's just
right,
magic.
I do think that it was somehow or another was actually physically happening just because of the circumstance there. But don't have to spend too much time on get us off track about the literal or figurative thing. But unfortunately,
it's great for us to dive into it because that's what we do.
Well, and I kind of agreed I was on Renzo's idea there that they were.
I think there's two camps here.
They were at the bottom of the pool, maybe being sustained by the symbionts while connected in their mind.
Okay, so great insights, love it. I think there's two camps. Me and Big J think it was like a physical thing, and Doug and Renzo are on the the more metaphor matrix side of things. So we see the memories like come flooding back. It's very beautiful. They get to see each other again. They see these memories. It's like when you're a Trill and you have a symbiote and you're a host, time is kind of wonky, it seems, because you're going back in time, you're in the memories. It's like time is a little more fluid, I think, for Trill. So I think the message here with this very powerful scene between these partners is power of love. Love will get you through. Adira loved her boyfriend so much. Mm-hmm. What was her boyfriend's name?
Gray.
I didn't watch this. Gray?
Yeah, Gray.
What a cool name.
First name's Gray, last name
Badass.
Tall. Well, got the name Tall when you
Gray Tall. You're right. Because like we go through the name thing. So we go through the rest of the vital memories to kind of get a lay of the land of what happened. And then we see all of the other hosts come say hello. It's awesome.
Right. And so what happened was the whole reason she ended up getting the symbionts is because this big rock hits their ship and Gray is critically wounded. Mm-hmm. So this medical droid comes in and is basically nothing we can do here. Like, look, critical condition here. If we get the symbiote out now, the symbiote will survive. And so Adira had to make a very tough, very like, we don't have time to talk about it kind of decision.
I know I love you. I'm going to do whatever I have to for you.
Right. This is very much probably not going to work, but it's the only option we have scenario. So we've got to try this. And so she
the
gets
devotion between those two characters.
Oh yeah,
together very well.
It did.
Mm-hmm.
It did.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got to see. You're right. We got to see the other previous hosts drop in, and I really liked, because I'm a meat and potatoes kind of guy. I really like seeing the different uniforms depicted over some of the time periods in the last 900 years, and especially the Picard style uniform, that's as far back as the hosts went was Picard. It would have been kind of neat if we had seen maybe a TNG or DS9 or Voyager, but I'm okay with that. There's no reason to think that
this is a very old Trill.
Right. This is still a very old Trill, even by showing a Picard uniform, because that is around the
that's 800 years ago for them.
Right. Correct.
Very old.
But yes, and
not all of these are Starfleet.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Well, they were all Federation.
Federation, fine. But I would wager that of the people present, only 3 of them have pips and a comm badge.
You're very true. Yeah, very right.
There's one who's wearing like a blue sort of wraparound shirt that is maybe diplomatic, or even it's the blue division and Trill hierarchy. We've seen red, we've seen yellow, now there's blue. There's also somebody here who's wearing a white gown with what appears to be like a diplomatic shawl or cowl or cloak or something. Reminds me of Princess Organa for a second.
She's so pretty.
And the one there to the right of the one wearing the white, I got very much like a motion picture / Discovery mesh kind of vibe out of that.
She's got the diamond pips that we're gonna see later in the series.
Okay.
And she has a different style comm badge that is very much like the ones that have been promoted for the 32nd Century Federation.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a great uniform. and of course, Senatol, who
Look at
just-
him.
oh.
He's so happy.
I want that uniform.
Yeah, he looks dope, dude. And he's thrilled that this
Yeah.
is happening. He's so happy.
He's got that smile on his face that's like that grandpa that is so excited for
Yes.
that accomplishment that you just did. He's got your
Mhm.
back your whole life. It's gonna
Very Ernest Borgnine kind of smile to
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, for sure.
So you know me, I need all these comm badges, I need all these rank pips, I need this uniform, I need the
Well, the
epaulets.
FLS, yeah.
Yeah.
So we get to meet all of the hosts and Gray once again. It's a very lovely reunion for the two, and they say hello and then they say goodbye. So now I believe that Adira has access to all of their memories and kind of gets to see and know who they are. And Adira will be just as critical of a part of Discovery as Stamets at this point, because Adira will have all of the historical knowledge of the timeline that they missed out on, pretty much.
Yep.
So we once again rise up to the Trill pools, and Adira decides to stay on the Discovery. And there's hope for Trill to join the Federation 2.0 in the future, or 1.5, however you want to think about it.
When they
just
get
a
out of
neat
the pools.
Yeah, I know Dag wanted to touch on something here.
Okay.
It's just when she steps out of the pool and he says, "Tell me your names," and she tells them her names. One, the insecurity that I mentioned at the beginning of the episode that she had, it's gone. She is serene and confident, and she knows who she is here. They know who they are here, and I think that's really, really cool. But then after they say their names, the Trill do this sort of ritual thing. And it almost sounds like they are chanting the Jantara ritual, which I thought was really cool. If you haven't seen the DS9 episode Facets, that's where Jadzia gets to connect with all of her previous hosts by imbuing a semblance of them in the rest of the main cast. It's where we get Curzon Odo, which is... should have stayed for the rest of the show. I love Curzon Odo.
That was a great episode.
But there's a ritual. You hold this device with your thing, and you chant the ritual, and it imbues that aspect of the previous host to go into somebody else. And it felt like they were chanting the Jantara, or they were very much using the same language, which is really cool.
So one neat connection I wanted to make again is, and I do this a few times, which you might have missed, Watney, but there's a lot of parallels between what this season of Discovery is doing and another show that was inspired by Gene Roddenberry called Andromeda. And there's lots of parallels in how it's rebuilding the Federation or rebuilding the Systems Commonwealth. And one of the things that you see in that show is a race called the Perseids, which are like the scientists and administrators of the Systems Commonwealth. After it fell, they just kind of like settled back down on their own planet and just like waited for somebody to rebuild it for them. And then they would reassert their spot there and help things out again, right? One of the places that they meet these guys, they go through something similar where they have to save them from themselves. And then they're like, okay, but when you guys fix things up, we're ready to join. We'll be there for you. And that's very similar to what we see here with the Trill. The Trill had some internal problems. The crew shows up, helps them work through it, hopefully gives them a reinvigoration of their culture, and they're thankful and willing to rejoin when things settle back down. So it's a good parallel there. It's kind of tropey, but it's a good parallel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So Andromeda, I might have to put that on my watch list.
Yeah, I was going to say, I need to watch that. I haven't seen that.
So I'll give you this warning. There are 5 seasons to the show. The first 2, no, there are 4 seasons to the show. The first 2 are good. The third is the fourth is just bad. So
okay, you're gonna have to just grin and bear it, huh?
I recommend grin and bearing it because there are still characters that are worth watching the whole way through, basically. But like,
That's how I felt about the 5th season of Babylon 5.
A lot of people felt that way about it.
Yeah.
So are we ready to go continue?
Oh,
There's
yes.
also a cool thing about this shawl. It's got the Trill language around the neck on it.
It's
the little
dope.
triangles with the swirls.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Style still exists.
We haven't lost our style. We may be cut off from everyone else, but we
Federation
still know how to dress.
continues. So we head back to the conference room, and Tilly is sitting with Saru. Thanking
so damn bad for
it.
Saru.
Yeah, he was like, "God, I really fucked that up." And
I spent all this time on this roast.
Hey, the computer told me to have a dinner for the crew. this is what I will do.
Mm-hmm.
The crew needs a lot more help than just what they're going through is not going to be fixed by a dinner together.
Sure.
In fact,
But-
they're not even ready to confront each other about the horrible things that like they've been through. They're
Watney.
projecting things.
Food though, like just feed people and that makes them happy. What would you do for macaroni and cheese? Let's be real here.
I could be absolutely pissed
Great
at
question.
anyone. And if they bring me a pizza, then a lot of that just kind of washes very quickly. Like,
Good to
okay,
know.
I can eat. Yes. So Watney, if next time you might be on the outs with the spouse, you guys are fighting, the food will just, bring someone to Cinnabon. And like, okay, what were we fighting about? Don't even remember.
That's
All you gotta do
powerful
is-
intel for me to make sure.
Oh, I think I equipped you
upset
with
you.
some bad. Yes. So if you piss me off or something, just
Pepperoni.
have a pizza sent to me, and
Mhm.
I'll forget the whole thing. Yeah,
Period.
pepperoni, sausage,
Mhm.
bacon, extra cheese. Now, if you do extra cheese, then all is forgiven.
I get it, but honestly, a lot of these people probably were dissociating because they're having PTSD from what they went through, and they didn't even really taste the food because they're like, "This, I don't want to deal with this. Like, I don't want to be around people. I don't know who I even am right now." So, Tilly thanks her despite the way that things went, which was south. She encourages him, like, "You're doing a great job. Thank you for doing that." Stamets enters. He apologizes to Tilly. And I'm kind of like Tilly in this moment. Like if I'm at odds with somebody and I'm like trying to make it better and they come apologize to me and then tell me I'm doing a good job and validate me, I might start crying too.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I totally empathize with her in this moment.
Well, yeah. And I really think that the dinner was not a total failure. It's not a wash. I really think that it was a good cathartic experience to get those things out, because as a captain, Saru was really trying to kind of like restore order to the table. But however, it's like forget about rank. Stamets, you're being an asshole. This other person's venting, and Saru's just like, oh, well, it's at that point, you're no longer rank. It's the airing of grievances. It's like, like at Festivus, the airing of grievances, and it's a chance to get those things out. So even though Saru, looked very much like one of those dinner hosts, like I spent all this time on this roast and everyone just leaves or whatever, it ended up being a good thing. So I hope he doesn't see it as a total loss, because that made me feel tight in the chest when he was just kind of sitting there, and I felt bad for him. I was like, God,
yeah,
like, holy shit. But
you're totally absolutely right. It didn't turn out as he intended, but the effect was still net in the
positive.
right direction for sure.
Yes,
you're right. So Stamets apologizes to Tilly and just says like, "Hey, I want to know more about your research. I want to know more about your ideas," which
it got everyone talking.
It did get everyone talking. It's almost, but like when someone is at odds with you like that and they're treating you like Stamets was treating Tilly, it doesn't, like, an apology is what it is. It's important to move forward, but that hurt was still there. It still existed. The pain was still happening in that moment. So like, sure, I've been in that situation where someone has just repeatedly and I've told them like, "Hey, this isn't okay," and it keeps happening. And then they eventually apologize and ask me about like, "Oh, well, I want to know your thoughts on this now." And I'm like, "You're kind of panic fixing. Like you're kind of like band-aiding this right now. And I don't want to talk about what I wanted to talk about it then. You didn't want to hear it. And I want to talk about this on my terms now." So I'm happy that Tilly is big enough to kind of say, like, "Sure, I'll talk to you about it now," because it's like vital for the ship. But she didn't have to do that.
Well, and the other thing that Saru did that just shows how much of a great captain he is that when you have something like this, that leave rank at the door, when you're coming in and sitting down in this kind of gathering, then it's just you should have that assumption that or you should be open enough as a commanding officer that when you come into here and we're sitting to eat, that take your pips and your comm badge off. We're eating as people, we're sitting as people. And if I have an ensign calling a superior officer an asshole for how he's treating her, then you just got to let that fly. You know, it's like okay, yes, on duty, that would not have been okay, but you know, but if it was called for, I mean, maybe, you know, I don't know the full story. Maybe he has really been a dick, but he did not insert himself into being the referee. It was just, you know, he tried, right. He tried to get a little bit of order there, but he let him go. He let him go, and it ended up being well. And sure, he had this look on his face like, what the hell am I going to do with all these leftovers? But he had a net positive experience on the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I'm with you. I think that the view of it is, I think the view of it being an airing of grievances is the right one, right? And every now and then you got to vent at someone. And in the absence of like a counselor or some sort of like neutral arbiter, which is a great word for it, sometimes the captain has to do that job. And I think he did it well. I don't think he should have inserted himself. He shouldn't have been like, okay, now you go. Or, no, now you go. Right. Now let them air it out, right? And I think that in the end, we see that they grew from it.
Yeah. Let the kids fight at the table. They'll figure it out later.
Yeah. So we cut to sickbay at this point, and Kayla approacheth sickbay, but she kind of doesn't go all the way in, but she's in the doorway, and Culber meets her there. I know you don't want to come all the way in, so I'll meet you here. And she admits she's not okay. Duh. And she's like, it was hard to say that. And he's like, I know. She's like, pilots are supposed to be macho. I get it, you know? And she's like, but I want to take you up on that talk that you suggested that we have. And he's like, yeah, I would love to do that. It's a very great one-on-one scene that we haven't gotten in the last 2 seasons in depth for these now vital characters. So they were vital before, but now we're like getting to know them more. So any thoughts on this scene?
I think this right here, we shouldn't take for granted. Even coming and verbalizing that you're not okay and that there's a problem. This right here, what Detmer's doing is very mountainous. I don't even know if that's a word. Very mountainous achievement there. Being ready to have it come out of your mouth that I'm not okay and need someone to talk to. I mean, that takes a lot of courage and effort there for her. So going all the way in was not really the end game of the goal. It's just saying it. It's finding, yes, it's the start, is being able to admitting you have a problem. I mean, that's difficult. I got to tell you, that is not easy. You may think it's easy until it's your turn to do it. And that's, and especially when you think you're right, you know, but then you end up having to accept that, well, maybe I'm not right. And so yeah, that's what I'll say about this scene, is that what she did right there was a huge step. Yes. We're
going to see a lot of growth with these characters, starting from ground zero, mourning a previous life. So I'm super excited to get to see all the development.
Oh, wow. I didn't think of that. Think of it that way. Mourning a previous life. You're right.
I was curious.
And Burnham's already done all that. Go ahead, Renzo.
No, I was just curious about one thing though, from the way the scene was shot. So the previous one with Saru, Tilly, and Stamets, it was a very red room. It was inside of the same room where they did the dinner. Like the feeling of the scene was very warm, right? Whereas this scene where we have Culber and Detmer talking about it, it's just outside of the sick bay, and it's very blue and it's kind of sterile, and it feels very different than the previous scene. Now, I get that they still worked through some of their issues, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't like a warm familial, let's just sit down and talk shit about this, right? Like it was much more like professional, I have a problem, you can help me kind of thing.
It was, so. It definitely, to me, it demonstrated the idea that in the meeting room, the parties came together willing to be open and talk about it and hash it out. Here, Detmer is just putting one foot on the stairway. She knows something's up, but she may not have the words or the desire to immediately just jump through it and get it done. This is a woman who in the last 3 years has suffered major trauma, the war, jumping universes, and now with barely time to recover from any of that and spend time with any of the people that really mean something to her. She's 900 years in the future with another recent head injury that might have triggered some really serious memories from the trauma of the first head injury.
Mm-hmm.
And she's 900 years away. Her entire, external from the ship support group is gone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't quite know how to handle that, except to say there's something wrong. And this is the moment that we get where she's like, I'm gonna work through it, but it's gonna be at my pace, which is exactly how therapy works.
It's like a great example of infinite diversity and infinite combinations, because everyone experiences trauma in their own way. Everyone cracks at a certain depth, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer for the light to reach those cracks for other people. So I think it was a good diversity of scenes here and a good writing. It was very good from a writing perspective. So
yeah, no, I wasn't criticizing the change. I was just saying, like, it's notable.
Absolutely
that
not saying that at all. Yeah, I love the change. I love the dynamic and the difference here. So we cut to the shuttle bay, because at the end of the scene with the two of them in the doorway, we hear over the intercom, "Please report to shuttle bay for a surprise."
For a surprise.
And there's a movie night going on. I think it's like Charlie Chaplin or something like that.
It's Buster
like
Keaton.
Buster Keaton. Okay.
The computer had recommended
The
it
computer
before.
had mentioned that.
Oh yeah.
I wish they would have gone with Three
Giorgio
Stooges.
gets handed a goth popcorn container, which I just die for that.
Is it?
And she's
is it
like,
goth
"Oh,
or is
fine,
it
I guess I'll eat it."
The fandom thinks that Giorgio and Linus are in a relationship, so the ship name is Gorgeous.
Oh, very nice. I love how they set her up with like, "Oh, you must have an incredible visual spectrum." And he's like, "I do. Let's go for a walk." And then that's all we hear about it. And we know that something's going on, but we don't know what it is.
They go into a
And maybe
turbo
later
land.
we'll find out. Yeah.
With a Saurian who does have an incredible visual spectrum, we saw that scene as like, is this a technical thing that Giorgio's pointing out? Does she need him for something? But what if it's
I didn't see
flattery?
it that way at all.
What if it's flattery?
I think it's both, because that's Giorgio.
I thought she was looking at the menu.
Oh my
We talked about
god.
that last episode.
We did. We talked
That's
about that.
100% right. So everyone's having fun. That the laughter here is very sitcom. Like, it was kind of awkward to me that everyone's just dying laughing at these like super old movies. But Stamets and Kayla, look at them right there. They hug it out. It's pretty great. She looks desperate. She looks just like still in shell shock, but she's like, "You're familiar. I'm sorry. I'm healing. You're healing. We're all healing here. So we'll get through this." And Saru push them closer.
You notice they had do they just leave that shuttle bay door open all the time? I'm a little.
It bugs the hell out of me.
It does. There's a lot of faith and confidence in that whatever force field's back there. I mean,
there are certainly redundancies.
If that thing decides to just like reboot,
all of their cargo is in there. They absolutely have redundant systems.
But why does it have to be open? It doesn't have.
Because it looks fucking dope.
Close the damn garage door. You're letting all the air out.
Do we ever see the garage door or the shuttle bay door actually close in Discovery? I think
sometimes.
No, why would it? You can phase through the fucking shields with your ship. You don't even need a door. That is the door.
I'll agree that this is a bad idea. If between Jay and Hawkshark, you guys can give me 5 instances where force fields failed and someone died in Star Trek. On 2009, we see the shields go down. We see shields. I'm talking about force fields. There's a force field here at the cargo bay.
Same thing.
The shields are external to that.
In Nemesis, when the front of the bridge of the Enterprise E got blown out, and
but the force field came down faster than
not fast enough.
Got sucked out.
Not before it got sucked out.
Right.
Season 1 of Discovery, when Burnham is in the brig.
That's 3.
Yep.
She shut down the force field on purpose.
No, it was going to shut down.
It was going to kill her. It was going to kill her.
Run out.
That's like the best instance, I think.
It was about to. So that was happening anyway.
All right, that's 3.
Okay, 3 under protest.
Unless in an alternate universe.
I'll be able to get you more.
No, you guys aren't wrong.
Okay,
And
how
it's an
about
aesthetic
listeners?
choice here, of course.
Listeners, you fill in the gap for us with the other 2, and we'll continue giving you the quality content that you are here for. So,
I'm saying
I
that's
don't
an
know.
unnecessary risk.
Is it though? They live in a
fine.
spaceship.
Let's just move on. God,
What if the gravity breaks at any moment?
Gravity's fine.
What if
You
the
can
gravity
just
turns
float.
out too high?
this is not supposed to be pick on Big J Day.
Okay, the real risk here, the real risk on starships, inertial dampeners.
Oh,
Hell yeah, it is.
Squish. Okay.
Like even
Space
at
magic.
standard orbit, if the inertial dampeners fail, you're still traveling thousands of kilometers an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Inertial
Oh,
damage
you're
or
right.
space magic.
So Culber and Saru bond here. It's pretty great for the CMO and the captain to bond. I love it. Bridge crew. It's like you have to have a good relationship with your CMO as the captain. You just have to.
You do.
We learn the sphere is what we heard earlier. The sphere lives on within Discovery, and it wants to protect and cherish the crew. In fact, the movie night was its idea. We know that the computer voice in the previous scene now was not Saru ordering the computer to. It said, "Guys, come here. I have a surprise for you." So it's
crap,
totally,
that's right.
Yeah, it's totally like another character now. It's amazing. I love it.
I like that. I think if Control is going to be like another character, that's great. I'm all for the Giorgio and Linus relationship. I think that will be neat. That'll be a nice little thing on the
I
on
don't
the
see
side.
that as ship at all.
I mean,
I don't get it. I thought it was like I could use you because Giorgio is very much like.
She's
maybe-
probably using him for something.
Okay,
She's
but
probably
we
debating
know
fricassee versus deep fry versus like oven baked.
when we were in the mirror universe on Kronos, she like got together, like hooked up with some Orions, and then like basically like held a gun at them for them to give her info. So we know
was
that
in
that's
Mirror
how
Universe
she
Chronos.
views.
That was main universe.
Never mind, you're right. You're right. I got mixed up. But she did that. So like we know that like relationships in that way are kind of like a secondary consideration for her. So
Right,
I don't see it, but it would be dope if that was a thing. So anyway, we cut to after this very awesome, cool scene, we cut to the quarters. I think it's Burnham's quarters. I don't know, but Adira is
One quick
there.
thing before we go.
Yeah.
One more thing before we go to the next scene. There's another thing from Andromeda, which is kind of relevant here. In Andromeda, the ships have an AI. It's by design. It's not an accident. It's not a spore thing. It's not a sphere thing. It's just they have an AI and it has a personality. It has a name. It has an avatar that it uses on the ship, like a hologram that it talks to people with. And it also has an android that it can go into for when it goes on away missions too. So the ship is part of the crew. The ship has almost a rank, like it has like authority over people at points.
Yeah, it's like Edie from Mass Effect.
Exactly. It's a lot like Edie from Mass Effect.
I need to watch
And
this show.
I feel
Voiced by
like
Trisha
Zora,
Helfer.
I feel like Zora is a lot like how they used Rami, the Andromeda's like AI in that show as well. So there's a lot of parallels here because they're both Roddenberry things. I feel like pointing them out makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Awesome. We love it.
I think that the quarters are Adira's and not.
So Adira gets her own quarters,
Yep.
and Burnham is basically. Oh yeah, because Burnham leaves. What am I thinking?
Right,
Of course,
right.
it's
Yeah,
Adira's
I ain't leaving you in my
quarters.
room.
Yeah. So we have like a tender moment, like thank you for your help, and then Burnham gets up to leave as Adira's pulling out a cello. So Senatel's parents used to sing him the lullaby that she plays, and Gray used to play the cello, and so now Adira puts all of that together, and it's like a very cool like mesh of all of the hosts that she's now kind of working in synchronicity and synergistically with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get the memory of her boyfriend showing up, and it's just very cool. It's very sweet.
And she's trying to work that out now. Like how are you here? Is what Adira says, and even Gray says, I don't know. So that's going to be something that now we'll get to see the continuation of their relationship, because it does continue on in a way that neither one of them is familiar with. So that they're going to both be learning. Well, how do we do this? Because I'm not really here. You can see me. No one else can. And neither one of us knows how or why this is working or happening. So that'll be very interesting.
So Dag, correct me if I'm wrong here, but whenever Jadzia or Ezra were talking about the symbionts of the previous hosts, they never refer to them as like being here still. They're just a part of me. They're not still alive. They died, but they're here through me, right? Which is very different than the sort of like presentation of like Gray literally being next to Adira and like holding her hand and critiquing her bow form, right? Like it's a difference that might be only possible because Adira is human, whereas all the previous hosts were Trill. So how it manifests might be different.
In DS9 Field of Fire, Ezri is able to call forth a presence of Duran.
That's the rite of emergence.
Who she sees next to her. And so that might be something similar here. But we have never seen the combination of a lover receiving a dead lover's symbiont, nor have we seen a successful, and I'm going to ignore Riker and Odan because it wasn't long term, a successful human symbiont pairing. So there's definitely could be some interplay there that gives Adira a very unique experience, specifically with Gray, but maybe with their previous hosts overall. And I guess that kind of leads into my gripe. But did anybody have any comments about that before I tweak?
I think that this is up to artistic interpretation largely. I don't personally feel like I think it's a way for us to see the influence in a way that's from the Trill's perspective as they're alone, because Gray I don't think appeared when Burnham was there, so it could very well be like a human thing.
I just retract my thing. I remember Field of Fire now, Dag. You're right. I think that's basically what's going on. It's just not intentional. Right, it's like she has the immersion ceremony going on, but she didn't do it on purpose. It's just kind of haunting her essentially. But that I think fits really well. And I totally forgot about the fact that wasn't a real person with Ezri. That was like from her imagination.
Mm-hmm.
So
this is definitely very interesting to me. I think
it'll be cool to see how it plays out.
And if we get the other characters too.
It would definitely be really nice to, we said it's the Burnham show, but I would like to see the lives of Tal as a focus at some point.
I thought sorry.
No, go ahead.
I thought the beautiful thing about how they did it in DS9 was the nuance of Dax speaking for them and the portrayal of the actress being able to show us the lives and memories and influence of these previous lives without having to resort to things like using them as basically a hallucination.
Right. And I would like to think that technical and aesthetic choices aside, there's a distinction between a host being able to just freely access and recall those memories and speak in sort of the voice of that host versus what Ezri did with Duran and what's happening here with Tal.
Yeah. For sure.
I want to follow that speculation that those are distinct things.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool things.
Yes.
But my gripe, I'm going to get into that. And Jay, I'm sorry, it's now a 3-hour podcast.
Oh, God help me.
Before Discovery premiered, they spoke very highly that we were going to have the most gay Trek of all time. We've got a non-binary character. We've got some gay characters. We also have Gray, who is going to be our trans character. And I love the fact that Star Trek's finally catching up with the boat, because in a lot of ways, media is already well ahead of even where they are now. But I am actually upset that Gray is dead. I don't know if I'm upset for somebody who doesn't feel that way, but in talking to people, it kind of feels like they used a trope, and I'm borrowing this from TV tropes. It's the bury your gays trope.
Yeah.
It's the thing that the queer character always gets killed off. And it may have something to do with their queerness or the conception of their queerness. And that doesn't necessarily apply here to Gray, because Gray was not killed because they were trans. They were killed because an accident happened. But I I'm upset because we don't really, I don't think we're going to get to know Gray as their own character. We're going to get to know this echo of Gray that exists in Tall that is interpreted by Adira. And I'm just upset about that. I don't know if I need to be more upset or less upset, but if anybody wants to comment on this and be like, Dag, shut up, it's cool.
It's
No, you're right.
Please do.
It's a trope. You're right.
It is a trope, but like the whole point of Trill like joinings is that you live on. So
I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's just how I feel. Like it's kind of a special circumstance, and given the progressiveness of the writers, it's hard for me to think that they like did that maliciously or like in the way of the trope. But again, that's not my space to be upset in. So I will totally validate anybody that feels that way. I personally kind of see it as like it's a Trill like story, and so the thing is like to transfer the consciousness. I don't know.
The other thing that I'm just want to say real quick, the other thing that I'm thinking about is what would the purpose of the story had been, or the plot had been, had there not been a situation, an emergency situation that would put a symbiont in a human host anyway. So what you're saying is that, okay, let's just say that Gray, we didn't do the trope of bury your gaze, and Gray lived. Would Gray still have the symbiont or not? Would there have been a reason to have Adira even involved?
So,
is just, how would that story have worked if
knowing what we know now, I don't necessarily disagree. I may have missed the boat when they introduced Gray as a Trill. We didn't know Adira was going to be the one holding the host. So, it would have been a different story. They could have told, they could have had Gray be the one receiving the host from Tall in that accident, and then Gray would come aboard, Enterprise or Discovery, sorry. And it's an interesting way to make this fit. I just would have preferred that Gray be another living member, and Adira and Gray can explore this relationship together.
Yes.
In real life.
Love the representation. We hate that it ended.
So just
in the way of a living person.
Okay.
Discovery started off with a huge example of bury your gaze, right? So the big thing with bury your gaze is usually bury your gaze prevents a gay character, a bi character, a lesbian character from having a happy relationship, right? It somehow prevents it. It keeps them from having a developed character. It's like a negative chain around them because it happened, right? And that happened in first season. We had Culber dying pretty brutally when he was murdered, right? And there were tons of cries about Star Trek Discovery, so progressive, yet look, bury your gaze. And they were right. They brought it back using the magic of Star Trek, which only we can get away with. But now we've got this example. And I don't really think this one fits because from what we've seen, Adira isn't going to be deprived the opportunity to have love or a loving relationship with Gray. If anything, she's going to be able to continue having it, right? At least that's what we've been presented so far in our singular episode of knowing about it.
Right, our 2 minutes.
Right, not even. So it's like we don't know enough yet, but it's very possible that they can avoid the trope simply because the character Gray keeps showing up and continues to show like character development for Adira because the relationship continues even after Gray's death. So
correct.
There's a lot of possibility for science fiction to use a trope in a way that can't be done with other media. Like you can't have this sort of concept in ER. Yeah, the character died. They died. So we get away with a little bit more that way. But yeah, as far as I'm with you, I can see the confusion or the complaint about it being a bury your gaze situation. But I think that they've kind of subverted it because the character still sticks around essentially. And
there's a purpose. There is a purpose for both of them to be there and interact as opposed
Whereas
to
Culber's death didn't feel purposeful at all, right? Like it felt arbitrary.
Oh God, yeah.
Yes. Ugh. Yes.
Yeah. They're definitely, I'm going to use the word intersectional here. I'm not sure if I'm using it correctly because I am not as well read in the literature as a lot of other people are. But, we have a non-binary character, a trans character. In the reality of the series, Gray is part of Tall, so some of this could just be happening in Adira's head. And then we're stumbling on did dissociative identity disorder related kind of things, and how they portray Gray and Adira's dynamic here, for lack of a better word. I feel like the writers have to tread very carefully to avoid stepping on quite a few different kinds of toes here. Just my thought. I don't know if that's also overreacting to what's going on here, but
I think the concern is totally valid. And I think that community has seen it happen so many times that this is another time, and it's not cool. So rightfully
so do it right.
Do it correctly, do it right. We like representation, but not at the cost of a healthy, fulfilling life. Like, give us a fulfilling character arc for somebody.
I don't know if anybody saw, was it Daredevil? The last season of Daredevil, where they had a character.
Oh, that's a great show.
Typhoid Mary. They portrayed her, and she had dissociative identity disorder, but as well as the character may have portrayed that, the community was still upset that why did they have to be the villain? Why did they have to be the villain? Why do people with alternate lifestyles initially get represented as bad guys? And
we need to turn the corner, though, right? Like,
we do.
I agree.
Do.
There needs to be a time period where we don't represent LGBTQ people as like always the villains, right?
Right.
Cool. That's the point that we should be finding ourselves in now, right? But there has to be a point where now, or in the future, where LGBTQ, etc., doesn't become like a rationale for anything. It's just, they're just a person. They can be the villain. They can be the hero. They can be the savior at the end of the day, right? They can be all of these things.
Right.
And I think that if you're a progressive or forward-looking show, like Star Trek tries to be and like Supergirl has tried to be, you can cast intersectional characters in good roles and in bad roles, and you can do both without getting like undue criticism, I think. And I mean, I think it's important that we're rounding that, parts of our entertainment media are rounding that corner.
Yeah.
And again, the fandom is very diverse, and you're gonna end up with people who are like, why are you portraying them as the bad guy? And you're gonna have people being like, no, it's totally cool because we're people and we're allowed to be people.
Right.
And so you have to be able to have that conversation and say, okay, can we agree somewhere in here that, you know, the most progressive thing is to treat people as people, or is that even are we at a place where we can present that in media now?
Well, if this most recent map and demographic and results of our 2020 presidential election is an indication of anything, the question, the answer to that question is no, not yet. And that is we're gradually turning that corner, because you're still dealing with half of your population being very much on the side of non-inclusivity of anyone who is different or not like me. So unfortunately, we're seeing that half your country is still not ready for anything progressive like that or minority based. So
yeah.
And on that note,
and on that note, I feel like this was announced while we were talking, and I feel some weight off my chest already. Like this entire past week, it felt like we were on the Maury Povich show waiting for the results of the paternity test.
This week was longer than quarantine has been since March. We're recording in November.
It's been a very long week.
Today is November 3rd, part 5.
This year has been the longest decade of my life, and this week has been the longest year of my life.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is November 7th at 12:39 p.m. Central Time. And in the middle of recording this podcast, it was announced that Joe Biden has won the presidency for 2020. And we would like to congratulate Mr. Biden and his team, and of course Kamala on their victory
Yes,
over
congratulations.
our previous president. And
Kamala Harris, who is now the first elected
period
woman and person of color
Yes.
to the vice presidency.
Yes.
Mhm.
And we encourage a peaceful transition of power.
Well,
Of course.
which we know is not.
Absolutely.
Well, and that's so we're talking, which is great that this happened the way that did today, because we're talking about this diversity in Star Trek, and now we see again that those ideals of diversity end up being able to break through. Yeah, it was a very tough week, but they were able to break through. And now we have that very positive, very welcoming piece of diversity.
Mm-hmm.
Now with a woman of color as vice president of the United States. You know, we had a man of color who was president of course with President Obama, but you know, it's like that call of diversity is still there. It's still answering. And regardless of all the lying, the plotting, the scheming, the threatening, and gerrymandering that is known of the Republican Party, we were able to that diversity is still
Electoral
alive.
College,
Yes.
270 votes, and the popular vote as well. So goodbye.
I would like to take a moment to recall a quote from Gene Roddenberry.
Mhm.
He said that Star Trek was an attempt to say that humanity will reach maturity and wisdom on the day that it begins not just to tolerate, but to take a special delight in, I can make a stupid pop up, but to take a special delight in differences and in ideas and differences in life forms. And I may have said it sometime in the past, of course, we love this thing, but taking special delight is very important to me. And I think if people viewed diversity or like that, they might be able to have a better barometer to check themselves. Tolerating people, that's like baseline. Humans deserve your tolerance at best. Like, we don't want to kill people. We don't want to hurt people. We kind of want to work to just be like neutral at a minimum. But taking special delight, if I'm the kind of person, I can see Kamala Harris elevate to this vice presidential position. And I'm so excited for her as a person, for what she's worked for.
Mhm.
And I'm so excited for the level of representation she's going to give unto others. Martin Luther King told Nichelle Nichols not to quit Star Trek because on Star Trek, she was an equal.
Mhm.
Whoopi Goldberg was inspired to become an actress in part because she saw Nichelle on Star Trek, and she ran through the house saying, "Mom, there's a black woman on TV and she ain't nobody's maid."
Yes. Mhm.
This is a hell of a time for representation. And if you're listening, if you're watching, do you take the special delight in the diversity of others, or are you sort of cringing internally and going, "I wish this hadn't happened"? That's a barometer to think about.
Like, let's be real, right? Star Trek, from its original roots, with the Roddenberry quote you just read, has always been a very progressive, forward-thinking, liberal, you might even say, like, form of media, right?
Mhm.
And I feel like the overlap between working towards a more diverse future starts today, right? And if our step towards that is having a more representative government, then that's a good step, right? But
Right.
my big thing, what I really, really want to say, though, is that it's going to be nice to see a kind of leadership in the White House that is more like what I would want on a ship, right? I would rather have a Picard running a ship.
Great tie-in.
Yeah, like I'd rather have somebody like Picard running a ship who, you know, he's authoritative, he's distant, but he at least he's listening to his people, he knows what he's doing, he's capricious, he's not
He
arbitrary.
can get you out of sticky situations, i.e. a pandemic.
And if Picard announces that he's delegating the responsibility of saving the ship to Geordi LaForge, I can trust that Geordi knows what he's doing.
Right.
He's not going to get arrested.
Well,
Yeah.
think
Had
about
it for the last 4 years. He's been cold. It has been unemotional. It has been distant. It has been like, and it's been completely inappropriate, right? Like, he's just been the wrong guy for the wrong time. So, I mean, I'm just happy that it's finally over.
Right. And here's the other thing that really speaks to the quote that Dag just gave us from Gene Roddenberry is that it hasn't taken, and hopefully it won't. But in Star Trek, the turning point for humanity was World War III. And look at all the horrible things that led up to that, for humanity to finally realize there just needs to be this complete fundamental change. Now, it wasn't until 10 years after the Third World War where Vulcans discovered Earth because of Zephyrin Cochrane's successful warp test. But here in our time, the hope is that we don't have to go through the Bell riots, that we don't have all the things that were depicted in Star Trek. We've seen how bad things can be. As a country, we were tested and failed miserably. And so hopefully being on that precipice of the near death of democracy, and how fascism was just about welcomed with open arms. And I'm hoping that we see that we narrowly avoided that, and that we've got a taste of, if you want things to be bad, it can be. Look at what happened in the last 4 years. Like we certainly have it within ourselves to jump into a nightmare.
Yeah,
and
can't be complacent.
Right. It's not a joke. Voting for Kanye West is not funny. Voting for Harambe for the president is not funny. I mean, think about how we got in the situation with Trump in the first place. Is we screw around and mess around with votes and think that everything's a joke, and oh no, reality show host is not going to be elected. It's like, hey, this is our wake up call right now, and which has a lot of parallels to Star Trek, is because Earth was given that wake up call of the war, and we as a country have been given that wake up call of get your act straight, or things are going to be very bad. And here is your taste. Here's you don't think things can be bad. Here's how bad it could be. And
well said.
And the fact that I've never been happier to follow an election. I mean, back when it was Bush versus Gore, it's like, okay, whatever, it's Gore's not bad, Bush. I mean, I don't want to get too deep into it. We probably lost our couple of conservative listeners if we had any. Anyway,
hey, and if you are a conservative Trekkie, tell us why. Right? Tell us what about Star Trek appeals to you as a form of media too.
Right.
Yes,
I totally want to hear what you have to say, but in good faith.
Oh, right.
Additionally, I think we should wrap.
Oh God, yes, please.
We love to. We could talk about this literally for hours and hours, and we do,
Yes.
but we do it in installments. And I just want to say thank you so much for sticking with us. This episode, Discovery's been awesome so far. My opinion, love it. This episode was great. I'm excited to see more in the development of these characters who have been through so much. I want to tell you where you can find us online. If you want to support us, find us at patreon.com/BeyondTrek. If you want to talk to us, find us on Twitter at Beyond Trek Pod. Dag is super active on there, or at Instagram at Beyond Trek Podcast. And we do have a facebook.com/Beyond Trek Productions. And I want to give a super special thank out to Stephanie Baker, a Patreon Anchor donator, and Jim Cook, who is an Anchor donator as well. And of course, John from Cygnus-X1.net. You provide the stills from the episode for us. So we definitely couldn't do that without you. Thank you so much for your partnership.
Yes, John, a big value of our production literally hinges on your screenshots. So thank you very much for that. Yes. If, and just like Stamets, we want to keep you protected in a glass cage. Don't let anything happen to you. Yes. Yeah. Something happens to you, we're in trouble. So hope you're listening to that. And I do want to leave you guys with one final tidbit here. So Betty White was born in 1922. Sliced bread did not become a thing until 1928. So Betty White is literally older than sliced bread.
And may she continue to remain.
And I don't want to see her name trending.
No.
Nope.
Any article that says Betty White is, I'm like, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Thank you
yeah.
so much for going boldly with Beyond Trek Podcast.
See you next time.
Thank you. Till next time.
We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your years. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.